决捍卫国家主权和领土完整。
Along with lobbing missiles into Taiwan Strait, the nearly week-long drills saw Chinese ships and planes crossing the center line in the strait. According to reports, China has pushed closer to Taiwan's border and may be seeking to establish a new normal in which it could eventually control access to the island's ports and airspace. Agency report, Republic TV.
And a roundup of news from across the globe. Production in a coal mine in Luhansk region controlled by Russian forces has been put in jeopardy after it suffered a loss of employees who have been conscripted to the front line. The coal mine wasn't damaged by the fighting, but its production was still undermined with a lack of modern equipment and conscription of its workers. The foreign ministers of Thailand and Malaysia met in Bangkok as the two South Asian countries seek to further boost economic cooperation. Malaysia's Saifuddin Abdullah said that he wanted to see actual progress on transport infra projects between the two neighbors. Severe drought has hit southeastern Europe, destroying crops on the scorched land and endangering shipping on the second largest river in Europe. A reservoir situated in northern Serbia has almost dried up due to summer's high temperatures. Officials in Germany have informed that the water levels on the Rhine could reach a critical low in the coming days, making the transport of goods along the river, including coal and gasoline, increasingly difficult. And Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida reshuffled his cabinet in a bid to distance his administration from the conservative Unification Church over its ties to the assassinated leader Shinzo Abe and senior ruling party members. A very short break, lots on the other side. Prime Minister Modi slams Congress days after its leaders and party workers carried out black dress protests. And Nitish Kumar throws massive attack on Prime Minister, stating that the latter will not become the Prime Minister in 2024 Lok Sabha polls.
Leaders of BJP, including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, have come here. They are protesting in BJP office.
जिस तरह से नीतीश कुमार ने धोखा देने का काम किया, उसके बारे में कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता। जनता इसे कभी माफ नहीं करेगी और निश्चित तौर पर वक्त पर इनको सबक सिखाने का काम करेगी।
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री के उम्मीदवार होंगे।
देख रहे हैं एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Right now, the instructions that have been given is all of these FIRs registered against Dukpur Sharma, all of them would be clubbed, consolidated FIR, and they would be transferred to the national capital.
FIR एक से ज़्यादा है, अलग अलग जगहों पे दर्ज हैं, उन सबको दिल्ली में ट्रांसफर कर दिया है।
इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर खराब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है और जब कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता तो लास्ट पे काम आता है इंडियन आर्मी का सबसे बड़ा हथियार जो है इंडियन आर्मी के सोल्जर्स, क्योंकि जिस टाइम आपका कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता उस टाइम आपकी इंट्यूशंस काम करती है।
The CEO of BJP workers who are chanting slogans against Nitish Kumar, the top leaders of BJP, including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, former Deputy Chief Minister Atar Kishore Prasad, all the parliamentarians of BJP have come here.
What the camel can do in the desert, no amount of technology can. And this is what we're going to tell you. What is the capability of this camel?
रेगिस्तान में सबसे इफेक्टिव जानवर जो है वो कैमल है। तो कैमल को किस तरह से ट्रेन किया जाए कि पीस टाइम पे वहाँ पर अच्छी तरह से पेट्रोलिंग कर सकें, पूरे एरिया की देखभाल कर सकें, वॉर के अंदर जो इसकी यूटिलिटी है, जो इसकी उपयोगिता है, उसको अपना सार्थक कर सकें।
Come with me. Let's spend some time with India's only camel unit at the BSF grounds in Jodhpur.
morning. Welcome to Republic TV. I'm Nivedna Prabhu. Let's take a quick look at what's making headlines across the globe. NDA's vice presidential candidate Jagdeep Dhankar to take oath as the 14th Vice President of India today. Court will resume Shrikant Tyagi's bail hearing today. TMC's Anubrata Mondal to be grilled by CBI at home after he skips 10th summon. EC welcomes SC suggestion of expert panel on freebies but does not want to be a part of it. Centre approves biological East Cobivax booster shot for adults above 18 years. Well, we have some big breaking news coming in. 2 terrorists killed in exchange of fire after they tried to enter the Pargal camp of Indian Army in Darhal. Now 2 army personnel got injured and search operation is ongoing. Now the Indian army was attacked. The attack on Indian army has been foiled. Now 2 terrorists have been killed. Now the suspected terrorists attacked the army camp in the Pargal area in Jammu. The suspected terrorists tried to enter the camp. The Indian Army Jawans deployed retaliated, after which the encounter took place. As reported by 11 Raj Rifles, someone tried to cross the fence of Army camp at Pargal. Sentry challenged and exchange of fire took place. Now additional parties dispatched for the location, which is around 6 kilometers from the police station in Darhal. Now this is the big breaking news that we're tracking at this moment. Now the attack on the Indian Army has been foiled. 2 terrorists have been killed. The suspected terrorists attacked the army camp. All right, for more on this information, we're joined in by Gursimran, who's going to give us more details. Gursimran, what we're given to understand at the moment is that the attack on the Indian Army has been foiled and 2 terrorists have been killed. What more information can you give us about this big breaking coming in?
Fidayeen attack, as per the top sources in the intelligence agencies, has been foiled as these 2 were Fidayeen attackers who tried to enter the Indian Army in the Pargal area that falls in the Dharal. And when they tried to enter the Indian Army, they tried to cut the fence and enter the Indian Army camp. They were challenged by the sentry of the Indian Army, after which the encounter broke out. As per the information that has been generated as of now, that 2 terrorists have been killed, while in exchange 2 Jawans of the Indian Army, they have received injuries and are being treated. The operation is going on. Highly possible that some more terrorists will be present in that very location. Important to mention that this area was under siege by the Indian Army and Jammu and Kashmir police for almost 2 to 3 days after inputs of the terrorists roaming in that very specific area. There was an input with the agencies. That was why the Indian Army was on the alert. And when the attempt was made by the terrorists to sneak in inside the Indian Army camp, they were retaliated and 2 terrorists have been killed so far. A major attempt, a major Fidayeen attack stands foiled, and this is really very important because we haven't seen any kind of Fidayeen attack in the recent past. There was an attempt ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's rally, but they were at very far off distance from the place when they were neutralized. But today they were very near to the army camp when these 2 Fidayeen attackers, they were neutralized by the Indian Army. Now the police teams of the Jammu and Kashmir police, that is part of the additional reinforcement, they have been sent to Darhal, since this area is a far off place, and now the encounter is going on. The operation continues in Darhal's Pargal area.
All right, thank you so much for giving us all those details, Gulsimran. Now, moving on to some other news now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi slammed Congress days after its leaders and party workers carried out black test protests. The PM said that the grand old party is turning to black magic as people are not ready to trust them. The Prime Minister also came down heavily on shortcut politics and freebies culture, taking a jibe at Arvind Kejriwal.
Dressed in all black, the Congress took to streets on August 5 to protest against price rise. But soon it was clear that the agitations had more to do with the ED clampdown on Vadra Congress than inflation.
We are talking about price rise today.
If you don't understand price rise, महंगाई, I can't help you.
So we understand price rise, but the issue of ED was also raised in the National Herald case. Mr. Ashok Gehlot raised it. Mr. Rahul Gandhi raised the issue of institutions. Why these?
Republic TV can ask any number of questions. I'm not going to be.
But Mr. Rahul Gandhi raised the issue of institutions.
वो किसको बचाते हैं? उनके यहाँ परिवार नहीं है, वो परिवार नहीं रखते। परिवार को बचाने के लिए मैं क्यों आऊंगा? मैं अपने नेता को बचाने के लिए आऊंगा। मेरा नेता मुझे बचाता है।
And today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi tore into Congress over its black cloth protest last week, saying those who believe in black magic won't earn people's trust.
अभी हमने 5 अगस्त को देखा है कि कैसे काले जादू को फैलाने का भरपूर प्रयास किया गया। ये लोग सोचते हैं कि काले कपड़े पहनकर उनकी निराशा हताशा का काल समाप्त हो जाएगा, लेकिन उन्हें पता नहीं है कि वो कितनी ही झाड़ फूंक कर ले, कितना ही काला जादू कर ले, अंधविश्वास कर ले, जनता का विश्वास अब उन पर दोबारा कभी नहीं बन पाएगा।
However, the Congress retorted to the PM's remarks like this.
लोकतंत्र में हमारा अधिकार है, संसद के अंदर, संसद के बाहर, विधानसभा के अंदर और विधानसभा के बाहर कोई भी मुद्दे जनता के उठाना हमारी जिम्मेवारी है और कांग्रेस पार्टी अपनी जिम्मेवारी को बखूबी निभाने का काम करती है।
The PM also came down heavily on freebies culture, speaking against it third time in a month, saying those adopting shortcuts for political selfishness cannot find permanent solutions to problems.
हमारी सरकार समस्याओं के स्थायी समाधान में जुटी है। पराली की दिक्कतों के बारे में भी बरसों से कितना कुछ कहा गया, लेकिन शॉर्टकट वाले इसका समाधान नहीं दे पाए। हम किसानों की पराली से जुड़ी समस्याओं को समझते हैं, इसलिए उन्हें इससे छुटकारा पाने के आसान विकल्प भी दे रहे हैं।
In a scathing attack on the opposition, PM lashed at all those opposing the Tiranga campaign, calling it an insult to the national flag.
इस काले जादू के फेर में आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव का अपमान न करें, तिरंगे का अपमान न करें।
But even as the Prime Minister urged all to come together for a strong nation, is the opposition listening? Bureau Report, Republic TV.
And this is the other news that we're tracking at this hour. Jagdeep Dhankar will take oath of office as the 14th Vice President of India today. President Draupadi Murmu will administer the oath. Dhankar had received 528 votes as the NDA candidate, defeating the opposition's Margaret Alva, who got only 182 votes in vice presidential election on August 6th. Hitting out of the freebies politics practiced in some states, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a wild jibe at politicians offering various freebies and added that the nation needs leaders with clean intent and not greed. Shrikant Tyagi, the self-claimed politician who was arrested for assaulting and abusing a woman in Noida Housing Society, had filed a bail plea following his arrest in Meerut. However, the court reserved the order on the bail application and asked for a report from the investigating officer. The next hearing is scheduled for today. The Kochi branch officials of the Enforcement Directorate on Wednesday conducted raids at the premises of individuals accused in the Rs 312 crore fraud at Karanbanur Cooperative Bank, which is controlled by the ruling CPM. Following the arrest of her husband Anu Tyagi, wife of arrested Shrikant Tyagi, who is behind bars for abusing and assaulting a woman in Noida in a viral video, said that he should have apologized immediately, but that everything that followed after the incident was being exaggerated. Images from Gurugram depicting bouncers hitting customers outside of a bar for attempting to murder the bar owner and bouncers must be arrested. Brinda Adige offers her thoughts on what transpired. According to reports, Bounder assaulted patrons by punching and kicking them, even though women were also not spared. An altercation between patrons and a bouncer broke out outside the Casa Danza club in Millennium City, and it lasted for 15 minutes. She even alleged that the bouncers ganged up and sexually assaulted her. The incident took place on August 7th, late at night, but no action has been taken as of yet. On the other side of the break, EC welcomes SC suggestion of expert panel on freebies but does not want to be a part of it. Centre approves Biologicals e-Scorby-Vax booster shot for adult above 18 years.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 private university for the 10th year by India Today, a testimony to Amity's world-class education whilst imbibing values and sanskars in students.
Good evening and welcome, viewers. The Supreme Court has given Nupur Sharma protection, interim relief, and clubbed all the 10-odd FIRs against her, and that's great because Nupur Sharma deserves equality before the law. She can't be left to fend with death threats and murderous calls and denied the protection that she deserves as a citizen of India under the law. Yes, Nupur Sharma deserves complete equality before the law. And so do those who are still even today getting threatened, attacked for supporting Nupur. If they support Nupur's views and that breaks the law, there is a legal process to deal with it. Then why in Karjat has 23-year-old Sunny Pawar been attacked with swords and slashed by a murderous group because he backed Nupur? Has Nupur Sharma become an excuse to unleash any form of violence in this country? Is there any doubt that Nupur Sharma has become an alibi to kill, to attack, and Nupur Sharma has become an alibi to violate every single aspect of the law? Is there any doubt? Is there any doubt that Nupur has over the last few weeks become an opportunity to threaten and to randomly stab and randomly bleed and even behead in different incidents across the country? What's going on? And honestly, viewers, haven't you asked, for how long will this continue? I know you've asked yourself that question. For how long will this random violence continue? Why should it continue? And that is why today's Supreme Court protection for Nupur, the Supreme Court interim protection, interim relief for Nupur Sharma should be a turning point. Enough violence. Now I say it's time for the law. Only the law in this great country of ours.
Kapil sir, one question. Kapil sir, one question, sir.
Varsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
CISF Jawan injuries who took those bullets is.
मेरे साथ एक ऑफिसर था, मैंने उससे पूछा क्या मतलब है वॉर मेमोरियल में खाली पत्थर लगाना। उसने बोला कि सर ये वादा है फौज का, ये वादा है इंडियन आर्मी का कि और कितने भी नाम इस पत्थर पे लिख दिए जाएं, ये तिरंगा ऐसे ही लहराता रहेगा।
Welcome back. Anubrata Mondal skipped CBI summons for the 10th time in the cattle smuggling scam, citing health issues, while the investigation agency is Mills Legal's options.
TMC Neta Anubrata Mondal is being investigated in the multi-crore cattle smuggling case, has once again done a no-show, skipping 10th CBI summons yesterday, citing health reasons. As Mondal has sought 14 days' time to appear before the probe agency, according to sources, the CBI is having none of it and is weighing legal options against TMC's Birbhum president. Republic has learnt that the CBI is likely to grill Anubrata Mondal at his home, while fresh action is expected against him for deferring the 10th summons. He, however, was questioned twice by the central agency as part of his investigation. With the opposition gunning for Mondal's head,
इतना बढ़िया एजेंसी, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडी जिसको डायरेक्टर का चयन करता है प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब ने, अपोजिशन लीडर, सुप्रीम कोर्ट का चीफ जस्टिस ने, ये इसका खिलाफ चार्जशीट में भी डाल दिया ये लोग, ये ही इज इन्वॉल्व। 10 बार बुलाया, नहीं आया। इसको कार्रवाई होना चाहिए, नहीं तो ये एजेंसी के खिलाफ तो पब्लिक परसेप्शन खराब हो रहा है।
जो आधा इंसान के नाम सिर्फ तृणमूल नेता का निकाला गया, वो एक ही केस में बहुत सारे सीपीएम कांग्रेस के नेता भी हैं, उनके नाम नहीं निकाला गया। इसका मतलब सामाजिक सम्मान सिर्फ तृणमूल नेता का खराब कर दो, उन लोगों का मत करो। सिर्फ तृणमूल नेता का 19 आदमी का नाम और बाद बाकी आदमी का नाम, वो कांग्रेस है, वो सीपीएम है, उसको हम ढांकने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। ये ठीक नहीं।
will Mamta's man Anubrata Mondal go the Partha Chatterjee way? And for how long can the TMC turn a blind eye? Bureau Report, Republic TV.
Well, we're having some big breaking news coming in at the moment, and on more on this, we're joined in by Kishle live from Kolkata. Kishle, what can you tell us about the fact that CBI has arrested former West Bengal school service into what details can you give us in the Bengal cash scam?
Well, exactly, big updates coming from West Bengal, where we saw yesterday 2 of the advisors of the previous West Bengal Board School Service Commission were arrested yesterday by the CBI. Both of them, Shanti Prasad Sinha and Ashok, Shanti Prasad and Ashok were called by CBI yesterday morning. They were summoned. Both of them were close aides of Partho Chatterjee as well, who is already arrested by the CBI, by the ED. And yesterday CBI had called both of these people, Shanti Prasad and Ashok, who were advisors to the School Service Commission, and both of them, when called, were interrogated. CBI found that there are several flaws in what they are answering, and they are trying to hide, according to CBI sources, many information that were key to this investigation. After that, in the evening, we saw both of them were arrested by the CBI, and both of them are today will be taken to the court, to the City Sessions Court, and CBI will ask for extension of their custody so that CBI can continue with their interrogation and investigation into the multi-crore scam which is related to School Service Commission and recruitment of teachers. Both of these 2 people were quite powerful in School Service Commission board, and they were advisors to Partho Chatterjee and to the board, and it was found by the CBI that they were trying to manipulate the names of people who were to be recruited, which means that people who did not make it to the recruitment board, who could not pass in the exams, were also recommended by these 2 advisors, and one of them were also the chairman of the recruitment board. So they were trying to manipulate in terms of money. They were taking money, that's the allegation. They were taking money and they were putting names of candidates who could not pass the recruitment exam. Right now CBI is interrogating them. They will be taken to the City Sessions Court today, and CBI will be asking for their custody, and investigation will go on. Partho Chatterjee will also be interrogated. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Kishle, for getting us all those details in the Bengal cash scam. Now, moving on to some other news. 3 Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists, including the killer of Kashmiri Pandit Rahul Bhatt, were killed in an encounter with security forces in Jammu and Kashmir's Budgam district since Wednesday morning.
In a big win for forces in Jammu and Kashmir, 3 Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists who killed Kashmiri Pandit Rahul Bhatt have been eliminated. They were involved in several terror crime cases, including the killing of Kashmiri Pandits Amreen Bhatt and Rahul Bhatt. The police further informed the bodies were being retrieved from the site and the identification was yet to be ascertained. Meanwhile, after the incident, the family said that they were relieved that the third terrorist has been eliminated.
हाँ, सुकून तो मिलता ही है जो इसमें इन्वॉल्वमेंट थी, मगर मेन तो जो ऑफिस में इन्वॉल्वमेंट है वो तो अभी तक पता नहीं चली गई इसमें।
जो ये मारा गया आज, ये पहला आदमी है, शायद उसमें इन्वॉल्व था, इसकी डायरेक्ट इन्वॉल्वमेंट थी, तो इतना मैं बता दूंगा कि काफ़ी इंतहाई सुकून है।
The security forces, after receiving the information about the presence of the terrorist at Waterhale in the Khansab area of Budgam, conducted a cordon and search operation at 3 a.m. An hour later, the cordon operation converted into an encounter after terrorists fired upon the security forces. Rahul Bhatt, who is also a Kashmiri Pandit, was gunned down by terrorists on May 12 in the Chadura area of Budgam. He was working in the Tehsildar office under the Special Employment Package Scheme for migrant workers. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
Now moving on, Swami Vairagyanand Giri, popularly known as Mirchi Baba, was arrested by the Madhya Pradesh police in the wee hours of Tuesday. The controversial saint allegedly raped a woman on the pretext of helping her conceive a child.
Swami Vairagyanand Giri, popularly known as Mirchi Baba, was arrested by the Madhya Pradesh police in the wee hours of Tuesday. The controversial saint allegedly raped a woman on the pretext of helping her conceive a child. The woman has alleged that he had given her some intoxicant, after consuming which she became unconscious, following which she was raped. Now the BJP is questioning the Baba over his links with the Congress party.
मुझे लगता है कि इसको जो कहना हो कमलनाथ को कहना चाहिए कि ऐसे व्यक्ति को राजमंत्री का दर्जा दिया, जो कहना है वो दिग्विजय सिंह को कहना चाहिए, जिनके लिए वो 5 क्विंटल मिर्ची का हवन कर रहे थे। उन्होंने कहा मैं भस्म हो जाऊंगा, जल समाधि ले लूंगा, अगर वो नहीं जीते तो वो नहीं जीते। तब भी इनको समझ में नहीं आई ये आदमी फ्रॉड है। किस प्रकार से बेटियों के साथ, महिलाओं के साथ दुराचार करने वालों को संरक्षण कमलनाथ और दिग्विजय सिंह देते हैं, मुझे लगता है बेहतर जवाब उनको देना चाहिए।
But the Congress has hit back with counter blames.
If you are talking about the photos of Kamalnath ji with this Baba, then you must have seen the photos of the same Baba with Narottam Mishra ji, who is the BJP leader and the current Madhya Pradesh Home Minister. So these Babas are connected to each and every political party. This is the duty of the political party who is in power, that they should control all these things, and they are responsible and they are accountable. So the Bharatiya Janata Party's Home Minister must resign now if the law and order has reached this point.
Meanwhile, Mirchi Baba, who was arrested from Gwalior and brought to Bhopal, where his interrogation is going on. But is there a wider connection at play? Bureau Report, Republic TV.
Over 100 people will take part in the Har Ghar Tiranga campaign to rededicate themselves to the service of the country. It will largely contribute to inculcating a new sense of patriotism among people. Notably, the centre has begun preparation for the manufacture of 3 different flags, which will be sold at post offices and made available online.
As the nation celebrates Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, state governments are conducting Har Ghar Tiranga campaign. The aim of this campaign is to celebrate and commemorate 75 glorious years of the independence of India and showcase patriotism. Attending one such event, the Assam Chief Minister said that the Har Ghar Tiranga campaign is at its peak.
In Assam, I am very happy to say that almost 50 lakhs flag has already been procured by the people. So it is going to be a big success here in Assam.
As part of the celebrations, Srinagar BSF organized a bike rally from BSP camp to Nishat Garden.
कश्मीर में बीएसएफ ने बहुत कुर्बानियां दी हैं देश को अखंड रखने में, बीएसएफ का बहुत बड़ा रोल रहा है। आज यही संदेश देने के लिए पूरे देशवासियों को, कश्मीर वासियों को, युवाओं को आज हमने एक ये बाइक तिरंगा रैली निकाली है जो शहर के प्रमुख मार्गों से गुजरेगा।
While the army continues to celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the students conducted Tiranga Yatra honoring the national flag. Meanwhile, Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami participated in the Har Ghar Tiranga program with army personnel.
देश के अंदर जो एक राष्ट्रभक्ति का नया ज्वार आया है वो हमारे हर वर्ग में आया है, चाहे वो सेना के लोग हों, हमारे आम नागरिक हों, आम जनता के लोग हों, छोटे बच्चे हों, स्कूलों, संस्थानों, सब लोगों ने आगे आकर आज़ादी का अमृत महोत्सव मना रहे हैं।
This comes amid the centre targeting the citizens to encourage the hoisting of the tricolour atop more than 20 crore houses between August 13th and August 15th. The nation will participate in the campaign to rededicate themselves to the service of Mother India. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
On the other side of the break, China's defense ministry says military exercises near Taiwan complete, targets achieved. Fifth day of raging wildfire in Portugal amid heat waves. Over 1,000 firefighters engaged, dozens evacuated.
The CEO of BJP workers who are chanting slogans against Nitish Kumar, the top leaders of BJP including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, former Deputy Chief Minister Atar Kishore Prasad, all the parliamentarians of BJP have come here. They are also holding some placards. BJP has upped the ante against Nitish Kumar and they are protesting in BJP office.
Kapil sir, one question. Kapil sir, one question, sir.
Barsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
CISF Jawan injuries who took those bullets is dead.
The top leaders of BJP including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh have come here. They are protesting in BJP office.
जिस तरह से नीतीश कुमार ने धोखा देने का काम किया उसके बारे में कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता। जनता इसे कभी माफ नहीं करेगी और निश्चित तौर पर वक्त पर इनको सबक सिखाने का काम करेगी।
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री में उम्मीदवार होंगे।
देख रहे एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Right now, the instructions that have been given is all of these FIRs registered against Dukpur Sharma, all of them would be clubbed, consolidated FIR and they would be transferred to the national capital.
FIR एक से ज़्यादा है, अलग अलग जगहों पे दर्ज हैं, उन सबको दिल्ली में ट्रांसफर कर दिया है।
इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर खराब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है और जब कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता तो लास्ट पे काम आता है इंडियन आर्मी का सबसे बड़ा हथियार जो है इंडियन आर्मी के सोल्जर्स। क्योंकि जिस टाइम आपका कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता उस टाइम आपकी इंट्यूशंस काम करती है। इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर खराब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है और जब कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता तो लास्ट पे काम आता है इंडियन आर्मी का सबसे बड़ा हथियार जो है इंडियन आर्मी के सोल्जर्स। क्योंकि जिस टाइम आपका कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता उस टाइम आपकी इंट्यूशंस काम करती है।
at 7:30, China's defense ministry says military exercises near Taiwan complete, targets achieved. UK summons Chinese ambassador over escalation against Taiwan. Fifth day of raging wildfire in Portugal amid heat waves, over 1,000 firefighters engaged, dozens evacuated. Ukraine claims Russia fired rockets from nuclear plant, killing 13 people. Likely change in FIFA World Cup schedule. FIFA set to move start date to 1 day earlier. Thanks for tuning in this morning. You're watching World This Morning and I'm Samiksha Srivastava. Lots lined up for you from across the globe. Starting with our top story, China has appeared to have wind down war games near Taiwan. Its military exercises have also raised tensions between the two sides in the backdrop of US Nancy Pelosi's visit a few days back.
China has appeared to wind down war games near Taiwan, after the military exercises have raised tensions between the two sides to the highest level in years. Taking a dig at the United States, China's Defense Ministry and its Eastern Theater Command both issued statements saying the exercises had achieved the targets of sending a warning to those favoring Taiwan's independence.
东部战区近期在台岛周边海空域组织诸军兵种部队系列联合军事行动，成功完成各项任务，有效检验了部队一体化联合作战能力。
China says its threatening moves were prompted by a visit to Taiwan last week by US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. But Taiwan says such visits are routine and that China used her trip merely as a pretext to up its threats. Taiwan has warned that the Chinese military drills reflect ambitions to control large swaths of the Western Pacific. While Taiwan conducted its own exercises to underscore its readiness to defend itself.
战区部队将紧盯台海形势变化，持续开展练兵备战，常态组织台海方向战备警巡，坚决捍卫国家主权和领土完整。
Along with lobbing missiles into Taiwan Strait, the nearly week-long drills saw Chinese ships and planes crossing the center line in the strait. According to reports, China has pushed closer to Taiwan's border and may be seeking to establish a new normal in which it could eventually control access to the island's ports and airspace. Agency report, Republic TV.
Now, with record heat sweeping through Europe, a wildfire burning through the forest of National Park in central Portugal continues to rage for fifth continuous day on Wednesday.
The wildfires that have posed a major threat amongst the European nations has now continued for the fifth day in Portugal. The fire that started last week has kept the firefighters struggling to contain it. The officials informed that over 1,000 firefighters were already deployed on the ground to contain the fire from spreading further. While no casualties have been reported so far, a few dozen people were evacuated after the fire crept closer to the homes. This comes amid Portugal witnessing difficult summers with extreme heat waves. The nation recorded hottest July last month. However, this is not an isolated incident within the European Union. Other nations like France and Spain are also witnessing major wildfires spread on hundreds of hectares of land. Previously, UN Weather Agency issued a warning stating that the heat waves should be posed as a wake-up call for the nations to make efforts against the climate change. Agency report, Republic TV.
Now, in more news, dozens of people are said to be missing after a boat of migrants and refugees sank in the Aegean Sea on Wednesday off the Greek island of Karpathos. Now, according to officials, as many as 29 people have been rescued and search operations for those missing is still on.
Greek authorities were conducting a major search and rescue operation for dozens of people missing at the sea east of island of Karpathos after a boat reportedly carrying up to 80 migrants sank during the night. Those rescued said that the boat had set sail from the Antalya area on the southern Turkish coast and it had been heading to Italy when it ran into trouble during the night. But with Greek authorities increasing patrol in the Aegean Sea and facing repeated and persistent reports of deporting new arrivals to Turkey without allowing them to apply for asylum, many are now skirting the Greek islands and attempting to take the much longer, much more dangerous route directly to Italy. Agency report, Republic TV.
And a roundup of news from across the globe. Production in a coal mine in the Luhansk region controlled by the Russian forces has been put in jeopardy after it suffered a loss of employees who had been conscripted to the front line. The coal mine was not damaged by the fighting, but its production was still undermined with the lack of modern equipment and conscription of its workers. The foreign ministers of Thailand and Malaysia met in Bangkok as the two South Asian countries seek to further boost their economic cooperation. Malaysia's Abdullah said that he wanted to see actual progress on transport infrastructure projects between the two neighbors in order to reach a trade target of $30 billion by 2025. Severe drought has hit southeastern Europe, destroying crops on the scorched island and endangering shipping on the second largest river in Europe. A reservoir situated in northern Serbia has almost dried up due to this summer's high temperatures, lack of rain and years of human neglect. Officials in Germany have informed that water levels on the Rhine could reach a critical low in the coming days, making the transport of goods along the river, including coal and gasoline, increasingly difficult. Authorities predict that water levels at Kaub will dip below the mark of 40 centimeters soon and will drop further on the weekend. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida reshuffled his cabinet in a bid to distance his administration from the conservative Unification Church over its ties with the assassinated leader Shinzo Abe and senior ruling party members as well. The reshuffle was the second in just 10 months since Kishida took over office. A very short break. UK summoned Chinese ambassador over escalation against Taiwan. And likely change in FIFA World Cup schedule. FIFA set to move start date to 1 day earlier.
Mr. Rahul Gandhi raised the issue of institutions. जगदीप धनखड़ देश के उपराष्ट्रपति पद पर सुशोभित है.
Reading allows us to become familiar with ourselves.
We don't read, we won't know what is knowledge.
I just find it very interesting to know people's lives, how they went through certain situations, how they dealt with things.
So wherever you want to go in life, if you read books along those lines, then that would really help you in growing.
Reading could mean a million different things to every individual. What does it mean to you? Visit readindia.info to find out more.
इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर ख़राब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है और जब कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता तो लास्ट में काम आता है इंडियन आर्मी का सबसे बड़ा हथियार जो है इंडियन आर्मी के सोल्जर्स. क्योंकि जिस टाइम आपका कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता उस टाइम आपकी इंट्यूशंस काम करती है.
The sea of BJP workers who are chanting slogans against Nitish Kumar. The top leaders of BJP, including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, former Deputy Chief Minister Atar Kishore Prasad, all the parliamentarians of BJP have come here. They are also holding some placards. BJP has upped the ante against Nitish Kumar, and they are protesting in BJP office.
Kapil sir, one question. Kapil sir, one question, sir.
Barsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
CISF Jawan injuries who took the bullets is dead.
Welcome back. Now, the aftermath of latest Gaza strikes was as tragic, as intense as the Israeli attacks were. A 22-year-old was among the 47 Palestinians who one day could not escape the war echoes as the war continues. She took her last breath among her paintings, mostly of her relatives who died in previous attacks.
At least 47 Palestinians became the victim of the latest violence in Gaza. And 22-year-old Dunyana Al-Amr was one of them. An Israeli shell slammed into the side of her home late Friday, leaving her dead among her black and white drawings in her shattered bedroom.
أنا لما عرفت دنيانا ماتت أول كلمة حكيتها من بدي يقعد مع العصر. يعني أنا ودنيانا يعني كنا العصر من أذان العصر لأذان لما يحكوا الله أكبر المغرب نقوم. هي قعدتنا كل مرة نفس المكان. يعني الفراق صعب والشهادة حلوة لأن احنا كنا يعني عائلة نكون مع بعضنا.
The artist sketched portraits of her relatives who died in previous Israeli attacks. Her mother, her brother and two sisters who suffered minor injuries are still in a state of shock.
هذه الذبربرية هذه الإنسانية لا تفرق لا طفل لا كبير لا صغار متمكنين يعني عندهم محدث التكنولوجيات عارفين من هذا طفل وبيتباهوا بالشيء هذا بيصوروا عندهم بيعرضوه أنهم بيعرفوا المدني من مش مدني مش هذا مدنية.
Those killed during the latest Gaza violence include two senior Islamic commanders, one of whom Israel said it targeted in order to foil an imminent attack. But several civilians also perished, including at least 47 Palestinians, 16 of them were children. No Israelis were killed or seriously wounded. Gaza has endured 4 wars and countless smaller skirmishes between Israel and local fighters since the Islamic militant group Hamas seized power there 15 years ago. A ceasefire ended the latest violence late Sunday, but grief still hangs over the impoverished territory. Agency report for Republic TV.
Now, the blaze which has ravaged a Cuban oil storage facility continues to smolder on Wednesday, as well as the fire crews were able to inspect some of the facility.
The fire that ravaged an oil storage in Cuba finally seems to be dying down. Firefighters were especially called from Mexico and Venezuela to contain the fire triggered by a lightning incident at the oil storage facility.
Apreciamos que el primer tanque ya está apagado, está prácticamente apagado y hoy le vamos a dar, ahora por la mañana le vamos a dar el remate porque quedan remanentes de humo y pequeñas candelas, pequeñas llamas, pero ya se debe controlar hoy y la apreciación es que se debe continuar para el segundo tanque en la medida que el humo nos deje entrar. La visibilidad por el momento.
So far, the incident claimed the life of 1 person and injured other 125. 14 firefighters are reported missing. The fire engulfed areas of the containers, each of which contained 50,000 cubic meters of fuel. Cuba president took to Twitter to inform that the team was making progress with the incident, however dangers were still latent. The Cuban president visited the site to review the rescue operations. Firefighters from Mexico and Venezuela brought planes, helicopters, and chemical supplies to contain the massive fire. However, there is no confirmed information regarding the amount of fuel lost or the actual damage that the facility incurred. Agency report, Republic TV.
Now, the Russian Defense Ministry has released footage of the combat work of Ka-52 alligator attack helicopter cruise on Tuesday, while the location and date of the filming are not specified. Here's a report.
The Russian Defense Ministry released footage of the combat work of the Ka-52 alligator attack helicopter cruise. The footage shows soldiers preparing for launch and performing combat sorties. The ministry also noted that the pilots were launching air weapons at extremely low altitudes, allowing them to remain undetected. According to the ministry, the combat work involved destroying strongholds and armored vehicles of the armed forces of Ukraine. In turn, the armed forces of Ukraine reported that Russian attack aircraft operated near Marinka. Moscow launched a military offensive on Ukraine in late February after recognizing the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republic's independence. Kiev has announced the Russian offensive into its territory. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky imposed martial law throughout the country, announcing a general mobilization. During recent peace talks, Russia has required that Ukraine declares itself officially a neutral country, providing guarantees that it will never join NATO. Agency report, Republic TV.
And a roundup of news in brief. A deadly fire that consumed at least half of a large oil storage facility in western Cuba and even threatened to bring more power failures to the island's already fragile electricity system was largely controlled on Wednesday after nearly 5 days. The fire also forced officials in Cuba to evacuate more than 4,900 people and shut down a key thermoelectric plant after it ran out of water, raising concerns about of a new round of blackouts in Havana. US Vice President Kamala Harris met with pro-abortion state lawmakers in Nevada to discuss the political landscape in wake of SC's decision overturning Roe vs. Wade. Harris also warned about Republican lawmakers in conservative states passing laws that criminalize healthcare providers.
An approach that suggests there should even be no exception in the cases of rape or incest. And I will tell you, having spent a large part of my career as a prosecutor, and I specialize in child sexual assault cases and violence against women, the idea that laws would be passed that after a person has endured such an act of violence, to not allow her to exercise the self-determination then to make decisions about her body and her future is abhorrent.
A small Southern California wildfire burning in dry bush sent smoke and flames swirling in a tornado-like pattern. The fire near Quail Lake in government-closed portions of northwest of Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Country Wildfire Department was fighting the blaze from both the ground and the air. The department meanwhile tweeted that the crews were making good progress on the fire and that no structures were threatened. Anti-government protesters in Sierra Leone clashed with police in streets of capital as tensions over the rising cost of living turned deadly in the West African nation. In a national broadcast, Vice President Mohammed said that lives of both policemen and civilians were lost. He announced a nationwide curfew in a bid to stem the violence in Sierra Leone. Rescuers were continuing to find survivors and bodies after a building collapsed in Nairobi of Kenya. The 4-story structure came down earlier in the afternoon in the Kenyan capital. Meanwhile, Red Cross Society's head of disaster management said that the number of people that had been trapped in the rubble was unknown. Officials, meanwhile, have said that 3 fatalities have been reported so far. Slipping into a very short break, lots lined up for you on the other side, and likely change in FIFA World Cup schedule. Possible FIFA set to move start date to 1 day earlier.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 private university for the 10th year by India Today, a testimony to Amity's world-class education whilst imbibing values and sanskars in students.
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री उम्मीदवार होंगे। देख रहे एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Right now, the instructions that have been given is all of these FIRs registered against Dukpur Sharma, all of them would be clubbed, consolidated FIR, and they would be transferred to the national capital.
FIR एक से ज्यादा है, अलग अलग जगहों पे दर्ज हैं, उन सबको दिल्ली में ट्रांसफर कर दिया है।
इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर खराब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है और जब कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता तो लास्ट में काम आता है इंडियन आर्मी का सबसे बड़ा हथियार जो है इंडियन आर्मी के सोल्जर्स, क्योंकि जिस टाइम आपका कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता उस टाइम आपकी इंट्यूशंस काम करती है।
The CEO of BJP workers who are chanting slogans against Nitish Kumar, the top leaders of BJP, including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, former Deputy Chief Minister Atar Kishore Prasad, all the parliamentarians of BJP have come here. They are also holding some placards. BJP has upped the ante against Nitish Kumar and they are protesting in BJP office.
Kapil sir, one question. Kapil sir, one question, sir.
Varsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
Welcome back on to news from the world of sports. FIFA is set to move the start date of the World Cup 1 day earlier so that host nation Qatar can play the first match. Here's a full report.
FIFA is reportedly set to move the start date of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar to allow the host nation to play the opening game on Sunday, November 20th. The competition is scheduled to begin with the Netherlands and Senegal playing at the Al Thumama Stadium on Monday, November 21st. Qatar's opening match against Ecuador is scheduled for the same day at Al Bayt Stadium. However, it has been understood that the hosts will now want to play exclusively first, as has become the tradition in recent tournaments. The Bureau of the FIFA Council must still approve the move, but it's understood there is unlikely to be any opposition. The competition will conclude with the finals on December 18th. Agency report for Republic TV.
The Morning Express coming up on the other side. India's vice presidential candidate Jagdeep Dhankar to take oath as the 14th vice president of India today. And court to resume Shrikant Tyagi's bail hearing today.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 private university for the 10th year by India Today, a testimony to Amity's world-class education whilst imbibing values and sanskars in students.
Good evening and welcome, viewers. The Supreme Court has given Nupur Sharma protection, interim relief, and clubbed all the 10-odd FIRs against her, and that's great because Nupur Sharma deserves equality before the law. She can't be left to fend with death threats and murderous calls and denied the protection that she deserves as a citizen of India under the law. Yes, Nupur Sharma deserves complete equality before the law. And so do those who are still even today getting threatened, attacked for supporting Nupur. If they support Nupur's views and that breaks the law, there is a legal process to deal with it. Then why in Karjat has 23-year-old Sunny Pawar been attacked with swords and slashed by a murderous group because he backed Nupur? Has Nupur Sharma become an excuse to unleash any form of violence in this country? Is there any doubt that Nupur Sharma has become an alibi to kill, to attack, and Nupur Sharma has become an alibi to violate every single aspect of the law? Is there any doubt? Is there any doubt that Nupur has over the last few weeks become...
मैं भी ये चाहता हूँ, हमेशा दिल में सोता हूँ शाम को, मेरे को दर्द होता है कलेजे के अंदर कि चाइना आए तो आज भी मैं खाने के लिए तैयार हूँ। युद्ध भूमि में दुश्मन से जब हम लड़ा करते थे, तूफानों को मोड़ दिया करते थे, अभी जितना बॉर्डर पर मारते हैं उतना तो हम रोड पर छोड़ दिया करते थे।
Very good morning. You're watching Republic TV with me, Nivedna Prabhu. Let's take a quick look at what's making headlines today. All eyes on Jagdeep Dhankar as he's set to take oath as the 14th Vice President of India. After mega unsparring Yogi action, goon Neta Tyagi to be produced in court today. Trouble mounts for Mamta's man after a 10-time no-show. CBI news to tighten on Anubrata Mondal. Freebie face-off heats up, top court to hear case today. Terrorist target army camp in Rajouri, both gone down in exchange of fire, 5 army personnel injured. Well, this is the big news that we're getting in at the moment, and we're tracking right here on Republic. 2 terrorists killed in exchange of fire after they tried to enter the Pargal camp of Indian Army in Darhal. Now, the big breaking news is that the big terror bid foiled in Rajouri. Now, 5 army personnel have been injured in this incident. Now, 5 army personnel injured in the Rajouri attack. Now, we have Gursimran joining us live on more on this particular story, the big breaking that we have. Gursimran, what details can you give us regarding this? We understand that 5 army personnel have been injured.
See, 3 army personnel have lost their life in this unfortunate incident. This is the latest confirmation we are getting from the top brass of the Indian Army that 3 jawans of the Indian Army who were injured in this terror attack have lost their life. These visuals are of the Pargal post that we are showing where this encounter has taken place. A suicide attackers possibly of Jaish-e-Mohammed, they tried to sneak into the camp of the Indian Army. This is an operational base of the Indian Army that was attacked today morning at around 3, and after which the intense gunfight broke out between the terrorists and the security forces, in which 2 terrorists have been neutralized, 3 army jawans have been martyred. This is the latest confirmation we are getting from the top brass of the Indian Army. The search operation in the area continues, but the important thing that is coming out of this, that ahead of the Independence Day, the Pakistani terror group was planning a spectacular terror strike on the Indian Army operational base in Rajouri. These terrorists were here for quite some time because the day before yesterday, a massive coordinated search operation was launched in the same area by the Indian Army, and today an attempt was made to carry out a Fidain attack that stands foiled, but 3 jawans of the Indian Army of the 11 Raj Rifles have attained martyrdom. This is what we are getting from the top brass of the Indian Army. Now the operation is underway. 2 terrorists gunned down, 3 jawans of the Indian Army have been martyred in this ongoing operation. Important to mention that this was a larger plot to inflict maximum casualties to the Indian Army in Daral base camp, that is in Pargal, by the Pakistani side. This is a conspiracy hatched by the Pakistani terror group so as to inflict maximum damage to the security forces ahead of the Independence Day, because this Pargal is the same camp of the Indian Army where Har Ghar Tiranga campaign was launched on earlier this Sunday, wherein the locals as well as the school-going children, they have to have taken part. We have the exclusive visuals of that camp when this flag hosting ceremony was taking place 2 days earlier, and today it has been attacked by the Pakistani terrorists. 2 terrorists have been utilized, and now the agencies are looking into forward and backward linkages, because what the kind of inputs that were available with the security agencies, they clearly hint at a larger plot, that this was not an end. The Pakistani terror groups were planning a series of attacks in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir ahead of 15 August, and that's why searches have been launched in several areas where the forces suspect that there might be presence of the terrorists. Apart from that, entire Jammu and Kashmir has been put on alert, keeping in view this nefarious attempt by the terrorists.
Considering the fact that Independence Day is around the corner, like you just said, multiple search operations were also happening as of today morning. So in terms of that, what else can you tell us, throughout the day? Would there be other sort of search operations underway, considering, Independence Day was around the corner?
See, there was a specific input that the terrorists will try to sneak into the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir using the international border, possibly in the Sama and the Kathua sector. And security forces, they were working round the clock on this. They were working on that input as well. And specifically to the presence of the terrorists, these 2 terrorists in the Buddhal area, there was a coordinated search operation that was launched 2 days before by the Indian Army and the Jammu and Kashmir police in the same area. But at around 3 in the morning, we are getting to know that the terrorists tried to attack the Indian Army's operational base, which is in the Pargal area. The jawans of the Indian Army that were deployed, they retaliated. In retaliation, 2 terrorists were killed, but 5 jawans of the Indian Army, they got injured, out of which 3 have attained martyrdom and 2 are undergoing treatment. This is what we are getting to know from the top brass of the Indian Army. More details are yet awaited that who these terrorists were, because what the agencies suspect that this was a Jaish-e-Mohammed terror group that was planning a spectacular strike, a Fidain attack on the operational base of the Indian Army. They wanted to stretch this operation as long as they can, so that they can inflict maximum casualties to the Indian Army, and also if they could linger on this operation for another 2 to 3 days. So what was in their mind was clearly the Independence Day. They wanted to mount trouble and they attempted, however, that has now been foiled.
That is Gursimran getting us all those details. Thank you, Gursimran, for joining us. Now, 3 jawans were martyred and 2 terrorists were killed in exchange of fire after they tried to enter the Pargal camp of Indian Army in Darhal. Now, 5 army personnel got injured, but like Gursimran just told us, that the search operation is still underway. Now, this is coming days before the Independence Day on August 15th, of course. Now, in terms of this big breaking that we have at this moment, cowardly attack on army camp in Rajouri. Now, we also have more information that 5 army personnel were injured and 3 jawans were martyred, 2 terrorists killed. Now, this also happened after the fact that the terrorists tried to attack the Indian Army camp, after which the jawans did attack. This is the latest information that we have so far on the cowardly attack on the army camp in Rajouri. 2 terrorists have been killed and 3 jawans have been martyred. Now, the suicide attack was 25 kilometers from Rajouri in Jammu and Kashmir. The terrorists tried to breach the army camp. 2 terrorists have been killed in Rajouri. This is the big breaking news that we have at this moment. The search operations are currently underway. 3 army Jawans were martyred in this cowardly attack. And 2 terrorists were killed in the exchange of fire after they tried to enter the Pargal camp of Indian Army in Darhal. Now, 5 army personnel got injured. Search operations are, however, underway and ongoing. This is this big story that we're tracking at the moment right here in Republic. 2 terrorists were killed in exchange of fire after they tried to enter the Pargal camp of the Indian Army in Darhal. And 3 army personnel were martyred in the cowardly attack on the Indian Army camp. The suicide attack was 25 kilometers from Rajouri. Now, after the terrorists did attack the Indian Army camp is when the Jawans retaliated, after which the encounter broke out. The terrorists tried to breach the army camp. The latest on this is that the search operations are underway. 3 army personnel were martyred and 2 were injured on a cowardly attack on the Indian Army camp. NDA's vice presidential candidate Jagdeep Dhankar, who earlier held the portfolio of the West Bengal governor, was recently elected as the 14th vice president of India after he defeated opposition candidate and Congress leader Margaret Alva with a huge margin.
Jagdeep Dhankar is all set to take over as the 14th Vice President of India and ex-officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha. He had, in a direct contest, defeated Margaret Alva of opposition UPA by a wide margin. Against an expected 515 votes, Dhankar managed to get 528 votes, with many of the opposition parties either abstaining or even voting for the NDA candidate. Coming in from Rajasthan, from a farmer's background and a Jat leader, he brings in the quota of OBCs to the table, and in that sense, I think helps the BJP over the next couple of years in states like Rajasthan and Haryana, which go to polls.
Jagdeep Dhankar will take oath as the 14th Vice President of India today. NDA's vice presidential candidate Jagdeep Dhankar, who earlier held the portfolio of West Bengal governor, was recently elected as the 14th Vice President of India. He defeated opposition candidate and Congress leader Margaret Alva with a huge margin.
Jagdeep Dhankar was governor of Bengal and not on the best of terms with the Chief Minister of Bengal, Mamata Banerjee. And despite that, Mamata deciding to abstain in the Vice President's polls clearly indicated that the BJP and the NDA are very good at managing polls like these, and of course also that the opposition unity lies in tatters. In that backdrop, Jagdeep Dhankar taking over as Vice President and Chairman of the Rajya Sabha is going to show interesting times ahead for the opposition ranks when it comes to crucial bills, whether they would be able to put the government on the mat or not. With the kind of numbers that Dhankar has won, almost highest over the last 6 Vice President elections, clearly shows that the BJP and the NDA now has its edge in both the houses of parliament.
He will take oath today, a day after the term of the incumbent Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu comes to an end. Bureau Report for Republic TV.
Now moving on, the Shrikant Tyagi saga began with a brawl between a Women's Society member and Tyagi over the planting of saplings in the Omek Society of Noida. The bail applications of Shrikant Tyagi, the primary accused in the Noida assault case, and his associates Nakul Tyagi, Rahul and Sanjay, was reserved by a court. Shrikant Tyagi had contested charges under sections 419 and 420 levelled against him.
Shrikant Tyagi, self-declared BJP leader, found himself behind the bars after the court reserved the order against his bail plea. The abusive so-called goon was at the center of an outrage since a video clip of him hurling abuses towards a woman surfaced on social media.
अपनी लैंग्वेज देख पहले।
After having gone absconding for days, he was arrested from Meerut on August 9. Following his arrest, the court sent him to 14 days judicial custody. Apart from being booked for misbehaving with a woman, he was also booked in a cheating case for allegedly using the UP government's symbol on his car without prior permission. This comes as the UP government took stringent actions against Tyagi. The government ran a bulldozer over Tyagi's properties while he went missing, escaping police arrest. Tyagi came into the limelight after a brawl began between him and his society members over the planting of saplings in a residential society of Noida. Tyagi and his supporters hurled abuses against the woman who confronted them and assaulted her. However, the court directed the investigating officer to submit a report. The court will resume Tyagi's bail hearing today. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
Well, here's the other news that we're tracking at this hour. Jagdeep Dhankar will take oath of office as the 14th Vice President of India today. President Draupadi Murmu will administer the oath. Dhankar had received 528 votes as the NDA candidate, defeating the opposition's Margaret Alva, who got only 182 votes in vice presidential election on August 6th. Hitting out at the freebies politics practiced in some states, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a veiled jibe at politicians offering various freebies and added that the nation needs leaders with clean intent and not greed. Shrikant Tyagi, the self-claimed politician who was arrested for assaulting and abusing a woman in a Noida housing society, had filed a bail plea following his arrest in Meerut. However, the court reserved the order on the bail application and asked for a report from the investigating officer. The next hearing is scheduled for today. The Kochi branch officials of the Enforcement Directorate on Wednesday conducted raids of the premises of individuals accused in the Rs 312 crore fraud at Karbanur Cooperative Bank, which is controlled by the ruling CPM. Following the arrest of her husband, Anu Tyagi, wife of arrested accused Shrikant Tyagi, who's behind bars for abusing and assaulting a woman in a Noida in a viral video, said that he should have apologized immediately, but that everything that followed after the incident was being exaggerated. Images from Gurugram depicting bouncers hitting customers outside of a bar for attempting to murder the bar owner and bouncers must be arrested. Brinda Adige offers her thoughts on what transpired. According to reports, Bounder assaulted patrons by punching and kicking them, even though women were also not spared. An altercation between patrons and a bouncer broke out outside the Casa Dansa club in Millennium City and it lasted for 15 minutes. She even alleged that the bouncers ganged up and sexually assaulted her. The incident took place on August 7th late at night, but no action has been taken as of yet. Anubrata Mandal skipped CBI summons for the 10th time in the cattle smuggling scam, citing health issues, while the investigation agency mulling legal options.
TMC Neta Anubrata Mandal is being investigated in the multi-crore cattle smuggling case, has once again done a no-show, skipping 10th CBI summons yesterday, citing health reason.
After the former Education Minister Partho Chatterjee, it is now the turn of another Mamata close aide, Anubrata Mandal. He is under investigation in the cattle smuggling case. In fact, the security guard was arrested by the Central Bureau of Investigation, and the allegation has essentially leveled that it was the security guard, or rather his personal bodyguard, who was actually taking all the instructions and he was working as a professor of Anubrata Mandal in terms of providing protection to those who were transporting the cattle across the border.
As Mandal has sought 14 days' time to appear before the probe agency, according to sources, the CBI is having none of it and is weighing legal options against TMC's Birbhum president.
It turns out that the Central Bureau of Investigation is no longer in any mood to grant further time to Anubrata Mandal. In fact, sources now indicating that the agency is mulling legal options as to how exactly should they be tackling this entire matter, given the fact that several summons have been sent to Anubrata Mandal and he hasn't really responded.
With the opposition gunning for Mandal's head,
इतना बढ़िया एजेंसी, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडी, जिसको डायरेक्टर का चयन करता है प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब ने, अपोजिशन लीडर, सुप्रीम कोर्ट का चीफ जस्टिस ने, ये इसका खिलाफ चार्जशीट में भी डाल दिया ये लोग, जे ही इज इन्वॉल्व। 10 बार बुलाया, नहीं आया। इसको कार्रवाई होना चाहिए, नहीं तो ये एजेंसी के खिलाफ तो पब्लिक परसेप्शन खराब हो रहा है।
जो आधा इंसान के नाम सिर्फ तृणमूल नेता का निकाला गया, वो एक ही केस में बहुत सारे सीपीएम कांग्रेस के नेता भी हैं, उनके नाम नहीं निकाला गया। इसका मतलब सामाजिक सम्मान सिर्फ तृणमूल नेता का खराब कर दो, उन लोगों का मत करो। सिर्फ तृणमूल नेता का 19 आदमी का नाम और बाद बाकी आदमी का नाम, वो कांग्रेस है, वो सीपीएम है, उसको हम ढांकने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। ये ठीक नहीं।
Will Mamta's man Anubrata Mondal go the Partha Chatterjee way?
পার্থ চট্টোপাধ্যায় তিনি এই মুহূর্তে জেলে, এবং তারপরেও শুনতে পাচ্ছি অনুব্রত মণ্ডলকে ইডি সিবিআই এরা ডাকছে। তো স্বাভাবিকভাবে বোঝাই যাচ্ছে, এবং আপনারাও দেখেছেন কলকাতা হাইকোর্টে 19 জন বাঘা বাঘা তৃণমূল কংগ্রেসের নেতা, তাদের মধ্যে কয়েকজন অবশ্য এই মুহূর্তে আর আমাদের মধ্যে নেই, তাদেরও নাম বেরিয়ে গেছে এবং তাদের সম্পত্তি নিয়ে ইডিকে সংযুক্ত করে মামলা চলছে।
And for how long can the TMC turn a blind eye? Bureau Report, Republic TV.
After the Enforcement Directorate of the CBI made its first arrest in connection with the School Service Commission recruitment scam, the CBI arrested former advisor of SSC Shanti Prasad Sinha and former chairman of SSC Ashok Saha after interrogating them for hours in connection with the scam.
Yesterday, CBI made the first 2 arrests in the SSC scam. The duo was arrested after a day-long questioning by the CBI and will be produced before the court today.
Now, as per our sources, we are given to understand that these 2 persons who have been arrested in the recruitment scam, the Central Bureau of Investigation essentially believes that they collected the vacancies of Group C in an unauthorized manner after the expiry of the panel in violation of the provisions of the School Service Commission rules 2009, and then issued recommendations of unsuccessful candidates to those vacancies by issuing fictitious memos of the regional commissions and by using scanned signatures of the chairpersons of such regional commissions in absence of their knowledge. Now, that's exactly what the Central Bureau of Investigation has to say with regards to the arrests that they have made. We are given to understand that in all likelihood they would be produced before the court today, where the Central Bureau of Investigation is essentially going to lay out the entire investigation that has been carried out. In this particular case too, Partha Chatterjee was actually called in for questioning by the Central Bureau of Investigation. He had actually appeared and he was questioned by the agency. As far as this entire panel is concerned, remember the court had come down heavily on the constitution of this panel, which the court essentially believes was unconstitutional, and the fact that it was illegal. And that is the reason why several action was actually taken by the court itself when this matter was being heard by the Calcutta High Court.
Shanti Prasad and Ashok Kumar Saha were named by the CBI in the FIR filed on 22 May. In fact, the order on 31st March mentions Shanti Prasad Sinha as one of the kingpins of this corruption. Paresh Adhikari and his daughter Ankita Adhikari were also questioned by the CBI earlier and faced a CBI FIR over illegal appointments. Meanwhile, the Kolkata police detained ABVP workers who carried out a massive protest over the SSC scam yesterday. The ABVP workers held protest over SSC recruitment scam. Protesters were later detained by the police. In parallel investigation by the ED in the scam, former Minister Partha Chatterjee and his aide Arpita Mukherjee were arrested. It remains to be seen.
सीधे दृश्य आप ये देख रहे हैं, नवनिर्वाचित उपराष्ट्रपति जगदीप धनखड़ राजघाट पहुंचकर बापू की समाधि पर श्रद्धांजलि उन्होंने अर्पित की, श्रद्धा सुमन अपने अर्पित किए और आज 12:30 बजे उपराष्ट्रपति पद की शपथ लेंगे। बेहद बड़ा एक सियासी सफर जगदीप धनखड़ का। भारत के 14वें उपराष्ट्रपति के रूप में आज वे शपथ लेंगे। नवनिर्वाचित उपराष्ट्रपति जगदीप धनखड़, सीधे दृश्य राजघाट से आप देख रहे हैं, किसान परिवार से संबंधित हैं, एडवोकेट भी रहे हैं और इसके साथ ही अपने सियासी सफर के लिए भी जाने जाते हैं, कई महत्वपूर्ण उपलब्धियों के लिए जाने जाते हैं। 2022 का चुनाव उन्होंने 74.37% वोटों के साथ जीता और 1992 के चुनाव के बाद से चुनाव जीत का अंतर सबसे अधिक उन्होंने दर्ज किया। तो एक बड़ा उपलब्धिपूर्ण सियासी सफर और आज देश के 14वें उपराष्ट्रपति के रूप में शपथ लेंगे जगदीप धनखड़। राजघाट से ये सीधे दृश्य आप देख रहे हैं।
बिल्कुल एक शानदार जीत इन्होंने यहाँ पर दर्ज की है और उसके बाद जो अपनी प्रतिद्वंदी थी मार्गरेट अल्वा, उनको भारी मतों से हराया भी और उसके बाद आज का दिन बहुत महत्वपूर्ण हो जाता है क्योंकि आज ये शपथ लेंगे और उस शपथ को लेकर तमाम तैयारियां हैं। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी समेत तमाम गणमान्य वहां पर शिरकत करेंगे और वहां पर उपस्थित रहेंगे। आपको बता दें कि काफ़ी शानदार इनका व्यक्तित्व भी रहा है। इससे पहले ये पश्चिम बंगाल के गवर्नर रहे हैं और वहाँ पर भी उन्होंने जो उनका कार्यभार था उसको बहुत अच्छी तरीके से संभाला भी और उसमें तमाम बड़े कार्य इन्होंने यहाँ पर किए और तमाम नीतिगत फैसले भी उन्होंने वहाँ पर लिए। तो राजघाट की ये तस्वीर हम आपको दिखा रहे हैं, जिस तरह से श्रद्धा सुमन अर्पित किए उन्होंने और बापू को श्रद्धांजलि दी और उसके बाद अब 12:30 बजे के से इनके जो शपथ ग्रहण है वो उसकी शुरुआत होगी और राष्ट्रपति द्रौपदी मुर्मू उनको पद और गोपनीयता की शपथ दिलाएंगी।
और इसका सीधा प्रसारण आप डी न्यूज़ पर देख सकते हैं, दूरदर्शन के माध्यम से देख सकते हैं। आगे बढ़ेंगे लेकिन उससे पहले नया सवेरा में
President Draupadi Murmu will administer the oath of office to be elected Vice President of India Jagdeep Dhankar at Rashtrapati Bhavan at 11:45 a.m. today. Now, Dhankar was elected as the Vice President on August 6th. He defeated the opposition's Margaret Alva to emerge as a winner. Now, he comfortably won the election with 528 votes against Alva's 182. Now, President Draupadi Murmu will administer the oath of office to the elected Vice President of India, Jagdeep Dhankar, today. He has reached Rajghat and he is the former West Bengal governor and the NDA's candidate will take oath as the next Vice President today. And he visits the Rajghat ahead of his oath today. Now, Dhankar secured 74.36%. He has the highest winning margin in the last 6 vice presidential elections held since 1997. Now, he won the election comfortably with 528 votes against Alva's 182. Now, on August 7, Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar and Election Commissioner Anup Chandra Pandey jointly signed the certification of the election of Jagdeep Dhankar as the next Vice President of India. Now, he visits Rajghat ahead of the oath as seen in those visuals. He's from a farmer family to the Vice President post, a huge day. He's been an MLA, MP, Minister and Governor. He will be elected as the Vice President. He defeated the opposition's Margaret Alva to emerge as the winner. All eyes on Jagdeep Dhankar as he's set to take oath as the 14th Vice President of India.
Kapil sir, one question. Kapil sir, one question, sir.
Varsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
CISF Jawan injuries who took those bullets is dead.
पहली प्रतिक्रिया आपकी। The top leaders of BJP, including Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh have come here. They are protesting in BJP office.
जिस तरह से नीतीश कुमार ने धोखा देने का काम किया, उसके बारे में कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता था। जनता इसे कभी माफ नहीं करेगी और निश्चित तौर पर वक्त पर इनको सबक सिखाने का काम करेगी।
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री के उम्मीदवार होंगे।
देख रहे एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Right now, the instructions that have been given is all of these FIRs registered against Dukpur Sharma, all of them would be clubbed, consolidated FIR, and they would be transferred to the national capital.
FIR एक से ज्यादा है, अलग अलग जगहों पे दर्ज हैं, उन सबको दिल्ली में ट्रांसफर कर दिया है।
इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर खराब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है और जब कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता तो लास्ट पे काम आता है इंडियन आर्मी का सबसे बड़ा हथियार जो है इंडियन आर्मी के सोल्जर्स, क्योंकि जिस टाइम आपका कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता उस टाइम आपकी इंट्यूशंस काम करती है।
The CEO of BJP workers who are chanting slogans against Nitish Kumar, the top leaders of BJP including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, former Deputy Chief Minister Tejashwi Prasad, all the parliamentarians of BJP have come here. They are also holding some placards. BJP has upped the ante against Nitish Kumar and they are protesting in BJP office.
Kapil sir, one question. Kapil sir, one question, sir.
Varsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
CISF Jawan injuries who took those bullets is dead.
पहली प्रतिक्रिया आपकी।
The top leaders of BJP including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh have come here. They are protesting in BJP office.
जिस तरह से नीतीश कुमार ने धोखा देने का काम किया, उसके बारे में कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता था। जनता इसे कभी माफ नहीं करेगी और निश्चित तौर पर वक्त पर इनको सबक सिखाने का काम करेगी।
श्रीकांत
Good morning and welcome. You are watching the Morning Express on Republic TV. I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. First up, the headlines. The Income Tax Department. All eyes are on Jagdeep Dhankar as he's set to take oath as the 14th Vice President of India. After mega unsparing Yogi action, Goon Neta Tyagi to be produced in court today. Trouble mounts for Mamata Banerjee's man after a 10-time no-show. The CBI noose is tightening around Anubrata Mondal. The freebie face-off heats up. Top court to hear the case today. Terrorists target an army camp in Rajouri. Both terrorists are gunned down in an exchange of fire. 5 army personnel are injured, 3 martyred. Well, the Income Tax Department has attached properties and assets worth about 390 crore rupees from an industrialist in Jalla. On the 3rd of August, the Income Tax Department had conducted searches at various locations in Jalna linked to this industrialist. Let's go across live to Alicia, who has all the details on this. Alicia, good morning. Alicia, what we are hearing right now is that about 390 crore worth assets have been attached by the Income Tax Department already. Give us more details on the case, please.
Well, yes, Nupur, the search that was conducted by Income Tax Department in Jalna, that was on the 3rd of August, where getting information about the illegalities and unaccounted cash, where Income Tax Department where conducted searches at an industrialist where in the multiple location in Jalna on 3rd of August. More importantly, what we know that 390 crore property assert has been seized, on which 58 crore unaccounted cash and 32 kilo of gold that has been confiscated by Income Tax Department. Moreover, what we have been told that when the searches was conducted, department has keep it confident over the action that has been initiated by the Income Tax Department. But moreover, it was 300 IT officials who conducted searches at a multiple location in Jalna that is linked to an industrialist. An official statement that is going to be released by Income Tax Department is what we have been known. But yes, it's a major action that has been initiated by Income Tax Department on 3rd of August, where multiple locations in Jalna that was raided, and around 390 crore the property that has been attached by the Income Tax Department.
All right, so as you're pointing out, of course, this does seem to be a huge seizure that has been made by the Income Tax Department. You know, just in terms of gold itself, it's about 38 kgs.
Well, yes, Nupur, it's a major seizure that has been made by Income Tax Department after getting an information, and there were multiple locations, as we have been told, that was raided in Jalna. It's linked to an industrialist is what we have been told. And importantly, yes, it's a 58 crore cash, unaccounted cash that was recovered, that is seized, and also 32 kilo of gold that has been recovered. So overall worth rupees 390 crore has been seized by Income Tax Department. And what we have been told that a detailed statement is going to be released by Income Tax Department. We'll wait for it. But there were around 300 IT officials that were present. They were conducting searches at various locations in Jalna on 3rd of August.
All right, so those details coming in. Pictures on your screen, of course, are of the raids that were conducted. As Alicia is pointing out, about 300 IT officials were involved. Now, Alicia, any more information as to, obviously this is a case of income tax evasion, but any more information as to what this industrialist was engaged in terms of his businesses?
Well, Nupur, we have to wait for an official statement because this is something very important, and getting an information of an industrialist, because during the raid that was conducted, there was a strict confident action that has been initiated by Income Tax Department. But yes, the seizure has been made, and we can see in the visuals as well, where 58 crore unaccounted cash has been seized. Moreover, 32 kg of gold that has been seized, and overall the property asset, as we can see, that it is 390 crore of property asset, including cash and gold, has been confiscated by Income Tax Department. The raid that was conducted in Jalna, that is a multi-location that was searched by Income Tax Department, and what we have also been told that there were 300 IT officials. So of course it's a something very major action that has been initiated by Income Tax, but we have to wait for an official press release, because the 390 crore that has already been attached by Income Tax Department is something related to an industrialist. We have to wait in which case this raid were conducted. But overall, what we have been told, and we can also see in the picture, that 58 crore unaccounted cash, 52 kilo of gold, that is the property asset, overall 390 crore has been confiscated by Income Tax Department.
All right, Alicia, bringing us those details. Thank you for joining us. Well, China once again stands with terror, has blocked the terror designation for Abdul Azhar. Azhar, one of the masterminds of the IC-814 hijacking. and India and the US had jointly wanted Azhar listed as a terrorist under the UNSC Sanctions Committee. Azhar is the brother of the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Maulana Masood Azhar, and this is the second time in a month that China has blocked the terror designation for him. Now, do remember that India and the United States had wanted Abdul Azhar to be subjected to a global travel ban as well as an asset freeze. Such a move has to be agreed upon by all 115 members of the Security Council Sanctions Committee. However, China has continued to stand with terror and has delayed the proposal on Wednesday. Let's go across to our senior executive editor Abhishek Kapoor, who's reporting on this. Abhishek, good morning. Abhishek, once again, China delaying action against this man who should ideally be designated as a global terrorist.
Well, absolutely. Abdul Rauf Azhar, he's also younger brother of Maulana Masood Azhar. He is one of the accused in the IC-814 hijacking of 1999. And China, like last month it did, has again put on hold, on technical hold as it is called, his designation under the 1267 United Nations Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee, which is a mechanism at the UN for designating some individuals as global terrorists. And just imagine how the brazenness of the Chinese that of the 15 members at the UNSC, 14 voted in favor of this US and India sponsored motion. But China blocked it, obviously because they have a veto. They are permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. They could do that. We saw how last month, in the case of Abdul Rahman Makki, who is brother-in-law of Hafiz Saeed and effectively number 2 of Lashkar-e-Taiba, again China had used its veto and put it on technical hold. So I think there has to be some pressure on the Chinese that while they continue to bully its neighborhood, like we saw in the case of Taiwan over the last fortnight, and when it comes to global consensus consensus on dealing with terror, we see the Chinese really brazening it out. So I think it's high time that the world community really holds a mirror to them. But again, we have seen how yesterday, last evening in fact, the Chinese have again used their veto in support of terror, in support of Pakistan, obviously, because Pakistan happens to be their all-weather friend. But this is something which is really not being appreciated by the world community. And it is hoped that individually all these nations which wanted Abdul Rauf Azhar to be designated terrorist would take up with the Chinese missions, perhaps in their respective capitals, and try to impress upon the Chinese that they can't for long continue to stand in isolation in support of terror, in support of Pakistan.
Absolutely, Abhishek, as you're pointing out, obviously China needs to answer on this. Abhishek Kapoor, our senior executive editor, thank you for joining us. All right. Well, we are cutting across to visuals that we are now getting from Delhi, where a Tiranga Yatra is taking place. To remember that the centre has put out a host of measures for the celebration of India's 75th Independence Day.
को विरोध करना है कर लो, हम तो भाग रहे आगे हमें पकड़ लो, अब तो तिरंगा थामे है देश सारा, तुम सोचो क्या होगा तुम्हारा।
बिल्कुल, मतलब आज हर प्रश्न का उत्तर आप गाने के जवाब में दे रहे हैं।
हाँ, आज तो वही है। कुछ दिन में वो साफ हो जाएंगे, कुछ दिन में हो जाएंगे बेसहारा, काला कपड़ा भी नहीं होगा गंवारा।
जिन लोगों ने सरकार में धोखा दिया, आप लोगों को छोड़ दिया, उनके लिए भी कुछ गा दीजिए 2 लाइन।
उनका निकलेगा जल्दी फवारा, न घर के रहेंगे न घाट के आवारा।
बहुत बढ़िया। तो यहाँ पर देखिए, आप सीधे तौर पर मनोज तिवारी ने अनोखे ही अलग ही अंदाज में यहाँ पर जो है हमारे सभी प्रश्नों का उत्तर दिया। रिपब्लिक भारत में उन्होंने गाकर तिरंगा जी।
All right, so pictures on your screen are of a mega Tiranga rally that is taking place in the national capital. Do remember that as part of the 75th year of India's independence celebrations, we've been seeing functions like this being organized across the country. Well, in a terrorist attack about 25 kilometers from Rajouri in Jammu and Kashmir, 2 terrorists carried out a suicide attack on an army company operating base. Both terrorists were killed while 3 soldiers unfortunately lost their lives. The operations are still underway to try and sanitize this area. So search and cordon operations still underway in this area. Gursimran is reporting live from here. Gursimran, good morning. Gursimran, give us more details of what really transpired. We're given to understand that this appears to be a suicide mission.
Yes, Fidayeen attack has been called by the security forces, and this was an attempt to carry out a series of strikes on the security forces ahead of the 15th of August. What we are getting to know from the sources that the 5 terrorists that have been killed in the past 24 hours, including these 2 Fidayeen attackers, and the recovery of 30 kg of IED in Pulwama, clearly hints at a larger plot of the Pakistani terrorist outfits to carry out a major terror strike ahead of the August 15th. Because you see, there is a regular intent with the security forces that the terrorists will try to carry out a major terror strike ahead of August 15th, and all the forces were on the alert, and that's why a major tragedy has been averted. Otherwise, had they been able to enter the operational base of the Indian Army in the Pargal area of Daral in Rajouri, they would have caused a maximum massive damage. But due to the alertness of the sentry that was deployed on the gate, he alerted the company commander, and then the retaliation took place. Unfortunately, 3 brave hearts have lost their life, but those terrorists who have come with the intention to carry out the spectacular strikes on the Indian Army, those intentions have been foiled, and now we are getting to know that the senior army officials, they are also maintaining a communication with the unit, and also the Jammu and Kashmir police senior official, including SSP Rajouri. He's on his way to the offsite, wherein he will be reviewing what has happened, because what we are getting to know that a larger plot of the Pakistani terrorists have been foiled, and now it has to be seen how things actually pan out, because there is a high alert on the entire union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. We can see the visible movement of the ambulances outside this army's operational base in Daral, where the ambulances are moving out with the injured from the operational base of the Indian Army.
All right, Gursimran, of course, is bringing us the latest on that attack that took place early this morning. Pictures on your screen are coming from that area where a search and cordon operation has been launched. You are watching Republic TV. When we return, we bring you the latest on what's happening in that operation 25 kilometers away from Rajouri.
Mr. Rahul Gandhi raised the issue of institutions. जगदीप धनखड़ देश के उपराष्ट्रपति पद पर सुशोभित हैं।
The CEO of BJP workers who are chanting slogans against Nitish Kumar, the top leaders of BJP, including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, former Deputy Chief Minister Atar Kishore Prasad, all the parliamentarians of BJP have come here. They are also holding some placards. BJP has upped the ante against Nitish Kumar, and they are protesting in BJP office.
Kapil sir, one question. Kapil sir, one question, sir.
Varsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
CISF Jawan injuries who took those bullets is dead.
The top leaders of BJP BJP, including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, have come here. They are protesting in BJP office.
जिस तरह से नीतीश कुमार ने धोखा देने का काम किया, उसके बारे में कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता था। जनता इसे कभी माफ नहीं करेगी और निश्चित तौर पर वक्त पर इनको सबक सिखाने का काम करेगी।
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री उम्मीदवार होंगे।
देख रहे हैं एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Right now, the instructions that have been given is all of these FIRs registered against Dukpur Sharma, all of them would be clubbed, consolidated FIR, and they would be transferred to the national capital.
FIR एक से ज्यादा है, अलग अलग जगहों पे दर्ज हैं, उन सबको दिल्ली में ट्रांसफर कर दिया है।
इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर खराब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है और जब कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता तो लास्ट पे काम आता है इंडियन आर्मी का सबसे बड़ा हथियार जो है इंडियन आर्मी के सोल्जर्स। क्योंकि जिस टाइम आपका कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता उस टाइम आपकी इंट्यूशंस काम करती है। इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर खराब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है और जब कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता तो लास्ट पे काम आता है इंडियन आर्मी का सबसे बड़ा हथियार जो है इंडियन आर्मी के सोल्जर्स। क्योंकि जिस टाइम आपका कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता उस टाइम आपकी इंट्यूशंस काम करती है।
Welcome back. Now, the Aam Aadmi Party Supremo and Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has demanded that a referendum should be held on whether the taxpayers' money be spent on providing quality services like healthcare and education or on one's family and friends.
Countering Prime Minister Modi's remarks that freebies will increase the burden of taxpayers of the country.
बिजली बनाने से लेकर घर घर पहुंचाने तक का जिम्मा जिनका है, उनका लगभग 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए फंसा हुआ है। ऐसी स्थिति में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर, भविष्य की जरूरतों पर निवेश हो पाएगा कि नहीं हो पाएगा?
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said that taxpayers would feel cheated only when their tax amount will be used to waive off loans of some of the friends of the BJP.
ऐसा माहौल बनाया जा रहा है जैसे आम लोगों को फ्री बिजली देना गुनाह है, आम लोगों को फ्री बिजली बंद कर देनी चाहिए, फ्री बिजली केवल मंत्रियों को मिलनी चाहिए। ये माहौल बनाया जा रहा है। मंत्रियों को फ्री बिजली मिले, आम लोगों को फ्री बिजली नहीं मिलनी चाहिए। जो ये माहौल बना रहे हैं, इन लोगों ने देश के कुछ चंद लोगों का 10 लाख करोड़ रुपए का कर्जा माफ कर दिया। पता है आपको? 10 लाख करोड़ रुपए का कुछ चंद लोगों का इन्होंने कर्जा माफ कर दिया। कहा जा रहा है कि उन चंद लोगों में कई इनके दोस्त थे, पक्के वाले दोस्त थे।
Kejriwal also suggested that a referendum should be started to know whether government funds be used for a family or for some friends, or should be used for providing facilities like good education, schools, hospitals, roads to the common people. Meanwhile, welcoming the suggestions of the Supreme Court to set up an expert panel to brainstorm the issue of freebies announced during elections by parties, the Election Commission has told the Apex Court that it, being a constitutional authority, can't be made part of it. The Apex Court had on August 3rd asked stakeholders like the Centre, Niti Aayog, Finance Commission and the RBI to brainstorm on the serious issue of freebies and put forth constructive suggestions to tackle it. The Supreme Court is now all set to hear the matter of freebies of political parties during elections today. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर खराब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है और जब कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता तो लास्ट पे काम आता है इंडियन आर्मी का सबसे बड़ा हथियार जो है इंडियन आर्मी के सोल्जर्स। क्योंकि जिस टाइम आपका कोई इक्विपमेंट काम नहीं करता उस टाइम आपकी इंट्यूशंस काम करती है।
The CEO of BJP workers who are chanting slogans against Nitish Kumar, the top leaders of BJP, including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, former Deputy Chief Minister Atar Kishore Prasad, all the parliamentarians of BJP have come here. They are also holding some placards. BJP has upped the ante against Nitish Kumar and they are protesting in BJP office.
Kapil sir, one question. Kapil sir, one question, sir.
Varsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
CISF jawan injuries who took those bullets is dead.
Leaders of BJP, including Ravi Shankar Prasad, Giriraj Singh, have come here. They are protesting in BJP office.
जिस तरह से नीतीश कुमार ने धोखा देने का काम किया, उसके बारे में कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता। जनता इसे कभी माफ नहीं करेगी और निश्चित तौर पर वक्त पर इनको सबक सिखाने का काम करेगी।
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री उम्मीदवार होंगे।
देखने एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Right now, the instructions that have been given is all of these FIR registered against Dukpur Sharma, all of them would be clubbed, consolidated FIR, and they would be transferred to the national capital.
FIR एक से ज्यादा है, अलग अलग जगहों पे दर्ज हैं, उन सबको दिल्ली में ट्रांसफर कर दिया है।
इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है,
Welcome back. You are watching Republic TV. Now, it is a new high for Indian diplomacy as the Mexican president decided to propose a committee made of 3 personalities, including Pope Francis, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The commission will be set up to promote a 5-year ceasefire without war or trade wars across the world.
The Mexican president Andrés Manuel López Obrador today announced PM Modi's name in a proposed peace commission he sought to submit to the United Nations. The proposed commission would work to establish a 5-year ceasefire to stop all ongoing military conflicts and trade wars. Other than PM Modi, Obrador proposed the names of Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, and Pope Francis. The announcement comes as China concluded its military exercises around Taiwan amid Nancy Pelosi's controversial visit. The inclusion of Prime Minister Modi in the name suggested by President Obrador signifies India's growing clout in global affairs, not just in soft power but also in the hard power domain. The significance cannot be diminished as the Prime Minister being put on the same pedestal as the Pope by the head of the second largest Catholic country in the world cannot be lost.
You are with Republic TV and still to come on Live and Breaking Next. All eyes are on Jagdeep Dhankar as he's set to take oath as the 14th Vice President of India. And after mega unsparing Yogi action, Goon Neta Shrikant Tyagi is to be produced in court today.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 private university for the 10th year by India Today, a testimony to Amity's world-class education whilst imbibing values and sanskars in students.
Good evening and welcome, viewers. The Supreme Court has given Nupur Sharma protection, interim relief, and clubbed all the 10 odd FIRs against her, and that's great because Nupur Sharma deserves equality before the law. She can't be left to fend with death threats and murderous calls and denied the protection that she deserves as a citizen of India under the law. Yes, Nupur Sharma deserves complete equality before the law. And so do those who are still even today getting threatened, attacked for supporting Nupur. If they support Nupur's views and that breaks the law, there is a legal process to deal with it. Then why in Karjat has 23-year-old Sunny Pawar been attacked with swords and slashed by a murderous group because he backed Nupur? Has Nupur Sharma become an excuse to unleash any form of violence in this country? Is there any doubt that Nupur Sharma has become an alibi to kill, to attack, and Nupur Sharma has become an alibi to violate every single aspect of the law? Is there any doubt? Is there any doubt that Nupur has over the last few weeks become an opportunity to threaten and to randomly stab and randomly bleed and even behead in different incidents across the country? What's going on? And honestly, viewers, haven't you asked, for how long will this continue? I know you've asked yourself that question. For how long will this random violence continue? Why should it continue? And that is why today's Supreme Court protection for Nupur, the Supreme Court interim protection, interim relief for Nupur Sharma should be a turning point. Enough violence. Now I say it's time for the law. Only the law in this great country of ours.
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री उम्मीदवार होंगे।
देखने एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Right now, the instructions that have been given is all of these FIRs registered against Nupur Sharma, all of them would be clubbed, consolidated FIR, and they would be transferred to the national capital.
FIR एक से ज़्यादा हैं, अलग-अलग जगहों पे दर्ज हैं, उन सबको दिल्ली में ट्रांसफर कर दिया है।
इस तरीके के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ इतनी हाइट है, वेदर खराब है, जिस टाइम फॉग आती है, थंडरिंग होती है।
What the camel can do in the desert, no amount of technology can. And this is what we're going to tell you. What is the capability of this camel?
रेगिस्तान में सबसे इफेक्टिव जानवर जो है वो कैमल है। तो कैमल को किस तरह से ट्रेन किया जाए कि पीस टाइम में वहाँ पर अच्छी तरह से पेट्रोलिंग कर सकें, पूरे एरिया की देखभाल कर सकें, वॉर के अंदर जो इसकी यूटिलिटी है, जो इसकी उपयोगिता है, उसको अपना सार्थक कर सकें।
Come with me. Let's spend some time with India's only camel unit at the BSF grounds in Jodhpur.
It's 9 a.m. viewers, and these are the top stories. All eyes on Jagdeep Dhakar as he is set to take oath as the 14th Vice President of India. Five terrorists wiped out, 30 kg IED recovered, forces in all-out mission mode now. After mega unsparing Yogi action, Goon Neta Tyagi to be produced in court today. Trouble mounts for Mamta's man after 10-time no-show. CBI news to tighten on Anubrata Mondor. UAB face-off heats up. Top court to hear the case today. We're going across straight to a breaking update, viewers, on Live and Breaking here, where we are getting that 5 terrorists have been wiped out, 30 kg IED recovered, forces in all-out mission mode now. Now, remember, we are bringing to you the details of the kind of IED that had been recovered by the authorities, and terrorists had entered Rajouri army base camp, in fact, and forces had given a befitting reply. Both the terrorists who had been there have also been neutralized, is what we're learning. Now, 5 terrorists had been wiped out by the authorities, by our forces who are active there, who are defending our country. And even as the IED had been recovered, at least 30 kgs of IED that has been recovered, forces are in an all-out mission mode now. And the terrorists, in fact, had entered the Rajouri army base camp, and forces have been giving a befitting reply. And both the terrorists, in fact, have also been neutralized, is the latest that we're getting to you with respect to how the IED and the explosives, in fact, that had been recovered by the forces on the ground. And viewers, on this big story, Gursimran, my colleague, is also joining me on the broadcast. Gursimran, tell us more about the 5 terrorists that have been neutralized now, and what more investigation is being carried out by the authorities to look into this entire matter.
See, this was an attempt by the Pakistani terrorists to sneak into the Indian Army operational base in the Pargal area of Dral in Rajouri. And the attempt of the Pakistani terrorists to enter the Indian Army's operational base has been foiled by the security forces well within the time due to the alertness of the Santri. And when the encounter took place, 2 terrorists have been neutralized in totality. 5 terrorists have been neutralized in the past 24 hours, 3 in Badgam, 2 in Rajouri, and 30 kilogram of IED was recovered in the Pulwama. And this was a larger plot of the Pakistani conspiracy to carry out a series of attacks in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir ahead of the Independence Day. This is what we are getting to know from the intelligence sources, and the Pakistan is desperate because despite there being a peace on the line of control, Pakistan wants to vitiate the peace process in Jammu and Kashmir. They want to carry out as much as terror attacks they can in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir ahead of the 15th August to show the presence of the terror groups as well as the Pakistani proxies in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And right after this attack, an alert has been issued in the entire Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. We are getting to know that the senior officials of the Indian Army as well as the Jammu and Kashmir police, they are also in touch with each other on the prevailing security scenario. And all the establishments of the Indian Army, they have been asked to maintain the
all the establishments of the Indian Army, they have been asked to maintain the high vigilance. However, this was a general alert that was issued earlier, also keeping in view the sensitivity of the August 5 and August 15. And all the operational bases of the Indian Army too are on the alert to foil any mischief from the Pakistani side, because there is a regular input which is hinting that Pakistan is planning something big ahead of the August 15.
Well, Gursimran, that is a very important point that you're also making with respect to how you have also picked up this information from your sources. I would like you to expand on this as well, because as you rightly pointed out, 15th August is right around the corner, and we see these kind of incidents coming to light from Jammu and Kashmir. Speak to us a little bit more about the nexus that the authorities are also looking into. Who really is responsible for these kind of actions, and any particular accused that they're looking at, terrorists that they have looked at in terms of the mastermind of this entire plot?
Right now the militancy in Jammu and Kashmir is being run on the modules model, and that's why the searches are on to nab the terrorists wherever they are. See, this is an operational details that, however, cannot be shared that who is on the target. But yesterday we got a specific information from the top brass of the Jammu and Kashmir police that the deputy chief of the resistance front, which is an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Toiba, Basit, is on the radar of the security forces. Apart from that, there are many terror commanders who are operating from the Pakistan and are planning a major terror strike ahead of August 15, for which the forces are prepared. And the incident that has been reported today morning from the Pargal area of Rajouri, where the Indian Army camp was on the target. The Fidain terrorists, they were trying to sneak into the Indian Army's camp, but was retaliated by the Santri that was deployed on duty, and due to the alertness, this attempt was foiled. However, 3 brave hearts of the Indian Army, they too have attained the martyrdom.
Well, absolutely, Gursimran. Thank you for getting us all those very crucial updates as far as this IED has been recovered by the authorities in J&K. We trust you to keep us ahead on that story. And cutting across to some more breaking updates now here, viewers, on Live in Breaking. After Prime Minister's black magic jibe, Rahul Gandhi is now on the defensive, and he's tweeted, and I quote, "Does the Prime Minister not see inflation? Don't you see unemployment? To hide your black deeds, stop lowering the dignity of Prime Minister's post by saying superstitious things like black magic and misleading the country Prime Minister, and the people's issues have to be answered." Now, this is a tweet that has come in response to the Prime Minister's jibe, in fact, and Rahul Gandhi also once again trying to take a dig at the Prime Minister and claiming that the Prime Minister should abstain from talking about superstitious things like black magic and misleading the country, he has said in this tweet. And he has stated that there are severe issues of the people that need to be focused upon, especially things like inflation and unemployment. These are the statements made by Rahul Gandhi in this tweet, in this latest tweet, in fact, that we are putting across for you on your screens right now. And you can see the tweet itself that has been sent out in response to the Prime Minister. And Anuj, my colleague, is also joining me on the broadcast, on the phone line. In fact, Anuj, tell us more about this tweet that we are now seeing, where Rahul Gandhi is once again taking a dig at the Prime Minister, and he has said that he should abstain from talking about superstitious things and he should focus on the real issues of the people.
Well, exactly. That's Rahul Gandhi, who is now reverting back, or rather hitting back at the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And let me read and let me quote what Rahul Gandhi has stated. Does the Prime Minister not see inflation? Don't you see unemployment? To hide your black deeds, stop lowering the dignity of the PM post by saying superstitious things like black magic and misleading the country, Prime Minister. People issues have to be answered. This is something which has been stated by Rahul Gandhi. But let me tell you, this is a guide which has been taken by Rahul Gandhi. Now, we have seen how the Prime Minister yesterday targeted the Congress party and called it a kind of black magic. Which Congress party was trying to do, and black magic was something which was used, the name which was used by the Prime Minister himself yesterday. And there, this was on the protest which was done by the Congress party, where everybody, including Priyanka Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, was wearing the black clothes, and that's where the Prime Minister has hit it on the Congress party and the kind of protest that has been done, where there was a target on the Enforcement Directorate and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And this was regarding when Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi was called in, and the kind of investigation that was done by the Enforcement Directorate. And later yesterday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi when targeted Congress party. Now this is Rahul Gandhi, who has tweeted on the same. A day later, now Rahul Gandhi is coming out and hitting back at the Prime Minister, where he is stating, does the Prime Minister not see inflation? Don't you see unemployment? To hide your black deeds, stop lowering the dignity of the PM post by saying superstitious things like black magic. So this is something which the line has been taken by Rahul Gandhi. We have seen the Congress party again and again hitting back at the Bharatiya Janata Party Prime Minister himself and the Enforcement Directorate. The frustration was seen on the roads of the national capital when Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi was called in for the investigation and for the questioning by the Enforcement Directorate. And later, when we have seen that how the office of Young Indian was sealed in the part of the investigation by the Enforcement Directorate. Then also it was the frustration of the Congress party which was seen on the streets of the national capital. And when 144 was imposed in the national capital, this was the Congress party who planned for a protest. And there we have seen what exactly has happened, on which an FIR rather has been registered, how the police personnel even was manhandled by the Congress party senior leader and including Priyanka Gandhi. After that, this was the reaction of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which we have seen yesterday, where Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of the country, has hit it on the Congress party and named is a black magic which has been done by the Congress party, and rather which Congress party was trying to do, and that is something which has been stated by the Prime Minister. But now this is Rahul Gandhi, who is coming early in the morning with a reaction, who has tweeted the same and who is talking about the inflation, and this is the war of word which is again seen within Congress party, with the Congress party and the Bharatiya Janata Party. Now it is expected that the Bharatiya Janata Party senior leadership will also be reverting back on the same, and this is again going to be the war of word, what we are expecting. But yes, Rahul Gandhi early in the morning, a day after now coming out with this tweet and hitting at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's reaction, which we have seen yesterday. Yes, back to you.
Well, Anuj, also expand upon this for our viewers because we have seen these kind of political war of words breaking out as far as the massive Congress protest is concerned, where everybody was donned in black. And of course, we saw those visuals as they had panned out with the kind of physical altercations that had also broken out with the top leadership of the Congress and the police officials as well. So expand upon this a little bit more about the protest that had gone on and the kind of reactions that you're also picking up in the Congress party with respect to the Prime Minister's scathing remarks.
Well, exactly. This was the protest which was called in by the Congress party. Rather, they were naming it that they have called this particular protest for the inflation, for the unemployment, for the farmers issue, for Agnipath scheme. But let me remind you, this was the word terminology which was used then and there by the senior Congress leaders also, and they were targeting again the Enforcement Directorate. Let me remind this to our viewers that this was the frustration of the Congress party, which was very much seen there on the streets of the national capital when Enforcement Directorate was in action and was questioning the duo Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi in the National Herald case. So there now Congress party's frustration could be clearly seen when Rahul Gandhi again coming out and hitting back at the Prime Minister. Prime Minister yesterday has made in this reaction, on which Rahul Gandhi is reverting now. We have seen yesterday Jairam Ramesh first coming out with a tweet and targeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now this is Rahul Gandhi who is again back with a tweet and targeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Yes.
All right. Anuj, thank you for getting us all those details on this big story that we are tracking for you now, viewers, where now the Prime Minister had taken a jibe at the Congress party with respect to the protest that they had carried out, and now Rahul Gandhi hitting back. Well, viewers, we're cutting across to how the Chief Minister Eknath Shinde of Maharashtra and the Shinde faction are there to offer prayers at Balasaheb Thackeray's memorial. I believe Alisha, my colleague, is there on the ground tracking those images for you as well. Alisha, if you can hear me, speak to us about these visuals that we are seeing right now of Eknath Shinde and the Shinde faction who reached there at the Balasaheb Thackeray memorial.
Well, yes, Priyanka, we can see the visuals here where the ministers from the Shiv Sena who has recently inducted into cabinet minister in the Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis, that is BJP government. We can see it's where the minister has already reached here, and any time from now where the Chief Minister Eknath Shinde is also going to reach to the Balasaheb Thackeray memorial in Dadar. What we have been told that this is something after yesterday there was the first cabinet meeting of all the newly inducted ministers, but right before right after that, we are seeing that the Shiv Sainik, the newly inducted ministers who are taking the blessings in the Babasaheb Thackeray Memorial. Importantly, would we have been told that this is something, a procedure that they are before starting their work for the people of Maharashtra, they are taking blessings of Babasaheb Thackeray at the memorial. And here we are clearly seeing the visuals where Deepak Kesarkar, Samburaje Desai, Dada Bhuse, Gulabrao Patil, Sandipan Bumre, Uday Samant, Sanjay Rathod have all reached here, and they are going to speak to media. We'll try and we'll see, but we can see the visuals here where the Shiv Sena newly inducted ministers who have already reached here at Babasaheb Thackeray Memorial to offer prayers. And what we have been also told that any time from now that Chief Minister Eknath Shinde is also going to reach. It is something, a new start, a new beginning of the Shiv Sena as inducted as a minister here. So before starting their work, they have come here to offer prayers to Babasaheb Thackeray, take the blessings of the Babasaheb Thackeray is what have been told by Deepak Kesarkar while speaking to the media. So here the visuals are from Babasaheb Thackeray Memorial where the Shiv Sena's newly inducted ministers are taking blessing from in Babasaheb Thackeray Memorial.
Well, all right. And of course, Alisha, the political significance of these visuals that you are getting to our viewers there from Dadar are also very important to note. And of course, this is just less than 24 hours after the cabinet expansion has also taken place. And now we are seeing that as 18 more people of the Shinde faction had taken oath, just 40 days after Eknath Shinde had become the chief minister. And of course, we are seeing Deepak Kesarkar there, perhaps going to speak to the media. Let's listen in.
प्रणाली मैम तुझा मोबाईल पण खाली घे मोबाईल खाली घे
हॅलो आम्ही रितसर जाऊन आम्हाला जी डिपार्टमेंट दिलेली असतील त्याचा आम्ही कार्यभार स्वीकारू. परंतु हा कार्यभार स्वीकारण्यापूर्वी बाळासाहेबांचं दर्शन घेणं हे आमच्या सगळ्यांच्या दृष्टीने आवश्यक होतं. कारण त्यांच्या प्रेरणेने महाराष्ट्राचा विकास करायचा आहे. त्यांचे जे विचार होते हे विचार आपल्या मनाशी बाळगून आपल्याला महाराष्ट्राच्या जनतेसमोर जायचं आहे, एक चांगलं राज्य द्यायचं आहे. आणि हे राज्य देत असताना बाळासाहेबांचे विचार सातत्याने आम्हाला प्रेरणा देत राहतील आणि त्यांना जे जे अपेक्षित होतं महाराष्ट्राच्या जनतेसाठी ते करून दाखवण्यासाठी आम्ही या राज्याचे मंत्री म्हणून सर्वजण प्रयत्न करू. या ठिकाणी ज्यावेळेला मुख्यमंत्री महोदयांनी मुख्यमंत्रीपदाचा कार्यभार सांभाळला त्यावेळेला आम्ही त्यांचे सर्व सहकारी, केवळ आम्ही मंत्रीच नाही तर आमच्या 50च्या 50 आमदार आम्ही भर पावसात भिजत या ठिकाणी बाळासाहेबांच्या स्मृतीस्थळाला आलेलो होतो. त्यांचे दर्शन घेतलेले होते, त्यांचे आशीर्वाद घेतलेले होते आणि त्यांची प्रेरणा घेऊन आम्ही महाराष्ट्रामध्ये चांगलं काम करू. आणि केवळ आम्हीच नाही तर आमचा सहयोगी पक्ष भाजप हे सुद्धा आमच्याबरोबर तेवढ्याच बाळासाहेबांचे विचार घेऊन लोकांच्यापर्यंत जातील आणि एक चांगला आणि
मंत्रिमंडळाच्या बैठकीत तुम्ही काय निर्णय घेतले, काय चर्चा झाली?
कॅबिनेट ही एक संयुक्त जबाबदारी असते आणि त्याच्यामुळे तुम्हाला छोट्या छोट्या गोष्टी सांगते, मोठे निर्णय तुम्हाला कळले असतील. परंतु तुम्हाला एक मी साधं उदाहरण देतो की कोकणामध्ये गणपतीचा उत्सव चालू आहे आणि MSEBने सगळ्या स्ट्रीट बंद केलेले आहे. मग लाखो लोक
We have already started our work, and most importantly, this work will be for the people of Maharashtra, for the benefit of the Maharashtra. The development will be the first priority.
ताबडतोब तिथल्या सगळ्या स्ट्रीट लाईट सुरू झाल्या पाहिजेत असे आदेश त्यांनी ऊर्जा सचिवांना दिले. अशा एवढ्या जलद गतीने निर्णय घेत असतात. प्रत्येक गोष्ट जी कॅबिनेट
There are still decisions that has been ongoing over the portfolios. Importantly, it's very important to think over what exactly the decision can be taken, and the portfolio has been picked. Is just the official announcement will be made.
दुसरं कालचं आमचं एक अत्यंत महत्त्वाची चर्चा झाली की इन्शुरन्स कंपन्या ज्या
Our first priority is to work for the people of Maharashtra, the work that has been on standby since many days and years. So we are working for the development of the people of Maharashtra.
सेना असतील, भाजप असतील, सर्व आमदारांचा एकच विषय होता की शेतकरी सुखी राहायला पाहिजे, तर त्याला न्याय दिला गेला पाहिजे. मग हे जे प्रश्न येतात आणि त्या प्रश्नावर जे निर्णय होतात, ते निर्णय सर्वसामान्य लोकांच्या हिताचे असतात.
The main motive is to work for the common people of Maharashtra, what we can do to make a relief
आणि त्याच्याच बरोबर 75वा
and
स्वातंत्र्य
to solve all the problems of the people of Maharashtra.
थांबवलं देतं, नाहीतर आम्ही आता सर्वजण इथून पु ल देशपांडे सभागृहामध्ये जाणार होतो. तिथं स्वातंत्र्य दिनानिमित्त एक चित्रांचं प्रदर्शन भरवलेलं आहे की आपल्या.
And viewers, we just heard Deepak Kesarkar also talking about the portfolios of the cabinet ministers and which portfolios will be given. He's saying that we will all be happy with whatever portfolios will be given to us because we are working with the ideology of Balasaheb Thackeray and working for the people of Maharashtra. Now, those were the statements made by Deepak Kesarkar. Of course, remember, he had been a very important face when this entire Maharashtra political crisis had been going on as well. And now we are seeing Eknath Shinde as the chief minister and his new cabinet berth also already. Let's move on to some stories in brief from across the country. All eyes on the oath taking as Jagdeep Thakur is set to be sworn in as the 14th Vice President of India today. President Draupadi Murmu will administer the oath of office to Jagdeep Thakur at the Rashtrapati Bhavan around 11 a.m. And remember, Thakur was elected as the Vice President on August the 6th after he defeated the opposition's Margaret Alba. Jagdeep Thakur, ahead of his oath-taking as the 14th Vice President of India, began his day by paying respects at the Rajghat at the national capital. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates the country on occasion of Raksha Bandhan today. Prime Minister took to Twitter to extend his greetings to the country. Court will resume Shrikant Tyagi's bail hearing today. Earlier, court reserved its order on a bail application moved by Tyagi, who has been arrested for assaulting and abusing a woman in Noida. In the wake of the high alert sounded by security agencies about a suspected infiltration from the international border in Jammu, security forces have been carrying out night search operations at multiple locations along the international border in Jammu, Kathua and Samba districts. The infiltration likely to disrupt the celebrations of the upcoming Independence Day. In another search operation, 2 terrorists were neutralized while 2 personnel injured and 3 Jawans were martyred in an exchange of fire in Jammu and Kashmir. The suspected terrorists tried to enter Pargal camp of Indian Army, where a Har Ghar Tiranga program was celebrated. Meanwhile, further information is awaited. In a terrorist attack 25 kilometers from Rajouri, 2 terrorists carried out a suicide attack on the army company operating base, who were later neutralized. 3 soldiers lost their lives. Meanwhile, operations in progress. BJP National President JP Nadda will be on a 2-day visit to Tripura from August 27 to strategize the 2023 Assembly elections. Nadda is also expected to address a rally in Agartala and hold a key meeting with the party office bearers. In yet another milestone in the Gangayaan project, the ISRO successfully carried out the test firing of the low-altitude escape motor and crew escape system from Andhra Pradesh. The crew escape system takes away the crew module of the Gaganyaan mission in case of any eventuality and rescues the astronauts.
On the other side of the break, we are tracking the big story where Prime Minister Narendra Modi black magic jibe. Now Rahul Gandhi hitting back and coming out with a tweet. Keep watching Republic TV. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 private university for the 10th year by India Today, a testimony to Amity's world-class education whilst imbibing values and sanskars in students.
Well, here's the other news that we're tracking at this hour. Jagdeep Dhankar will take oath of office as the 14th Vice President of India today. President Draupadi Murmu will administer the oath. Dhankar had received 528 votes as the NDA candidate, defeating the opposition's Margaret Alva, who got only 182 votes in vice presidential election on August 6th. Hitting out at the freebies politics practiced in some states, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a veiled jibe at politicians offering various freebies and added that the nation needs leaders with clean intent and not greed.
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री के उम्मीदवार होंगे। देख रहे हैं एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Images from Gurugram depicting bouncers hitting customers outside of a bar for attempting to murder the bar owner and bouncers must be arrested. Brinda Adige offers her thoughts on what transpired. According to reports, Bounder assaulted patrons by punching and kicking them, even though women were also not spared. An altercation between patrons and a bouncer broke out outside the Casa Dansa Club in Millennium City and it lasted for 15 minutes. She even alleged that the bouncers ganged up and sexually assaulted her. The incident took place on August 7th late at night, but no action has been taken as of yet.
And a roundup of news from across the globe. Production in a coal mine in the Luhansk region controlled by the Russian forces has been put in jeopardy after it suffered a loss of employees who had been conscripted to the front line. The coal mine was not damaged by the fighting, but its production was still undermined with the lack of modern equipment and conscription of its workers. The foreign ministers of Thailand and Malaysia met in Bangkok as the two South Asian countries seek to further boost their economic cooperation. Malaysia's Abdullah said that he wanted to see actual progress on transport infrastructure projects between the two neighbors in order to reach a trade target of 30 billion.
ये चाहता हूँ, हमेशा दिल में सोता हूँ शाम को, मेरे को दर्द होता है कलेजे के अंदर कि चाइना आए तो आज भी मैं खाने के लिए तैयार हूँ। युद्ध भूमि में दुश्मन से जब हम लड़ा करते थे, तूफानों को मोड़ दिया करते थे। अभी जितना बॉर्डर पर मारते हैं उतना तो हम रोड पे छोड़ दिया करते थे।
Good morning, viewers. Thanks for tuning in. We are live and breaking. I'm Samiksha Srivastava. A lot lined up for you in this edition, starting with headlines first. All eyes on Jagdeep Dhankar as he is set to take oath as the 14th Vice President of the country. After mega unsparing Yogi action, Goon Neta Tyagi to be produced in court today. Five terrorists wiped out, 30 kg IED recovered, forces in all-out mission mode now. After mega unsparing Yogi action, Goon Neta Tyagi to be produced in court today. Trouble mounts for Mamta's man after a 10-time no-show. CBI news to tighten on Anubrata Mondal. Freebie face-off heats up top courts to hear case today. Starting with the breaking news coming in, this one over the massive furor over the remarks that were made by the AAP Neta earlier with respect to Divya, the Commonwealth Games medalist. What we understand is that now the AAP MLA has tried to spark divide with the remarks that were made earlier. The question arising whether AAP MLA will apologize for the remarks that were made earlier. In fact, remember the AAP Neta had tweeted, and I quote, "Maybe I'm wrong, sister, but when I searched, I found that you have always been playing for Uttar Pradesh, not from Delhi. Today, the whole country is proud of you. I pray to God that you go ahead." That was a tweet that was put out earlier by the AAP Neta, following which the wrestler Divya replied saying 2011 till 2017 she had played for Delhi and that she even has certificates to prove the same. So massive furor there over the tweet that was put out by the AAP earlier. In fact, now we have the BJP also that has hit back over the remarks that were made by the AAP Neta. In fact, BJP Shehzad Poonawalla, who has taken to Twitter, he said, and I quote, "It is beyond disgusting that a player who raises the honor of the country has to give evidence to prove herself. Instead of helping Divya, the chief spokesperson of AAP, Saurabh, kept ridiculing her. This is how AAP lies and takes credit, but in reality insults our youth." That's the tweet that has been put out by BJP Shehzad Poonawalla. So a massive face-off that has erupted over the remarks that were made by the AAP MLA, following which the the medalist, the Commonwealth Games medalist, was forced to take to Twitter to prove that she has been playing for the Delhi, and not just she's been playing from 2011 till the 2017, and she even went on to mention that she has 17 certificates to prove that as well. And we have Anuj tracking all that updates very closely. Anuj, we understand that a face-off that has now erupted over the remarks that were made by the AAP Neta earlier. If you could take us through the political reactions coming in on this story.
Well, this is going to be the political ramification of the same if we talk
All right,
about
Anuj, I'll have to interrupt you there. Just stay with us. We have BJP Shehzad Poonawalla also joining us. Sir, if I can get your response as well. We understand that you've taken to social media to hit out at AAP. Very shocking indeed, the kind of remarks that were made by the AAP Neta earlier.
This is the true face of the Aam Aadmi Party, the anti-Aam Aadmi Party actually. The manner in which Divya Kakran and other athletes who raise the pride of our country. She has won the bronze medal in this edition. She has won multiple medals. She has been living in Delhi for 20 years. She has won multiple laurels for Delhi. The manner in which instead of helping her, giving her support, when she said that in 2018 and in 2022, Kejriwal did nothing to support her except for photo op, chief spokesperson of AAP, Saurabh Bharadwaj, insults her, humiliates her, ridicules her, and plays divide and rule card and says, "Tum Delhi se nahi ho." How dare he say this to any athlete, and particularly a woman athlete who is doing so much proud for the country. This time, then she was forced to put out her documents. Imagine how insulting this would be, that somebody on social media has to put out a document, a certificate saying that yes, indeed, she represented Delhi. She has won multiple medals for Delhi. She has won 8 Bharat Kesari. She has won 17 golds for Delhi. She represents state of Delhi. She has put out that certificate. And Mr. Kejriwal's party insults an athlete. This is their true face. They will do nothing. They will only give advertisement. They will only do marketing. But when the real time comes to help these athletes, and when the athletes remind them of their promises which have been broken, Saurabh Bharadwaj, Aam Aadmi Party insults an athlete, and that too on a day like Raksha Bandhan. On a day when we stand with our sisters, with the women of this country, on that day, the Aam Aadmi Party has incited, humiliated the national pride of this country. I would request Arvind Kejriwal to immediately sack Mr. Bharadwaj. He must act on Mr. Bharadwaj if he is true to his word, or else it will be seen that this is sponsored by Arvind Kejriwal as vendetta against Divya, because Divya spoke the truth that Mr. Kejriwal has not helped her even one bit.
Well, absolutely, sir. And that's the point, that instead of taking cognizance of these remarks that were made by the Commonwealth medalist, we have the AAP, kind of making these charges and saying that she has never played for the national capital. So even a sorry or an apology, do you think, would suffice with the kind of remarks that have been made by AAP?
This is the most insulting, humiliating, ridiculing behavior where an athlete who has won us medals in Birmingham, has won us medals in international platforms, has to now prove to this spokesperson of AAP that she is a person representing Delhi state. How humiliating it must have been for Divya. I shudder to think that on one hand, Prime Minister motivates these athletes personally, he calls them up, talks to them, Khelo India, Tops India, these schemes are being used to help these athletes so that we become a global sporting giant. And on this other hand, this spokesperson and close aide of Kejriwal, he humiliates an athlete and says, "Tum kahan se ho? Tera certificate dikha." This attitude, I would demand Mr. Kejriwal, because he watches a lot of television, sack Mr. Bharadwaj. Sack him. If you are true to your word, sack him, or else this is being done at your behest.
All right, so that's a big demand there being made by the BJP, demanding the sacking of the AAP MLA who made these remarks. Well, thank you so much. So that was BJP's Shehzad Poonawala. If Anuj is still with us, Anuj, if you could give us the reactions coming in, any clarification latest coming in by the AAP with respect to the statements that were made earlier by the AAP MLA?
Well, as if till now there is no clarification from the Aam Aadmi Party, but this is going to be an embarrassment for Aam Aadmi Party and specifically Saurabh Bharadwaj. And Chief Minister himself will have to reply on the same, because now we are seeing the political ramification of the same, where BJP is hitting hard on the Aam Aadmi Party, because this seems like to be without having the knowledge of the same. Saurabh Bharadwaj has tweeted. Saurabh Bharadwaj has tweeted against a bronze medal winner who has won the bronze medal in the CWG games in 2020. So she's a wrestler. Divya is a wrestler who is now on the Twitter platform showing her certificates, claiming that she has played for the Delhi, she represents Delhi, and how many medals she has bought in for the Delhi. The certificates has been put out there on the Twitter. And today, let me break this also, at 4 p.m. Divya is going to do a press conference. Divya will be interacting with the media, and where Divya will be coming out with the papers and the certificates and the kind of insult that she is feeling, because she has represented the Delhi, and that is what she has put in there on the Twitter also. But this is going to be an embarrassment for the Aam Aadmi Party, because as of till now there is no clarification, no apology from the Aam Aadmi Party or Saurabh Bharadwaj. So we are still waiting for the reaction of Aam Aadmi Party, what their exactly stand is. If we talk about their particular stand, if it is in his own view, if we talk about Saurabh Bharadwaj, that has to be made in very much clear by the Aam Aadmi Party or the Chief Minister himself, that what exactly the party stand on the same is. If it is an individual stand, then Saurabh Bharadwaj will have to make it clear what exactly has happened and how he can say someone that she did not represent the Delhi.
Yes, Anuj, interrupting you for just a moment, we have Manjinder Singh Sirsa of the BJP also joining us. Sir, if I can get your reaction as well. Earlier we spoke to Shehzad Poonawala, who demanded nothing less than sacking of the AAP Neta who made these shocking remarks against the Commonwealth Games medalist.
देखिए, इससे पहले भी ये को पहली बार अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की कहनी और कथन में अंतर हो, बार बार उन्होंने ऐसा करके दिखाया जब वो बोलते कुछ हैं और रियलिटी कुछ होती है। अगर हम इस पर्टिकुलर केस की बात करें तो अगर आपने देखा हो तो प्लेयर ने खुद भी अपने 2018-19 के मेडल भी और सर्टिफिकेट भी शेयर किए और बताया कि मैं दिल्ली से यही पहले खेलती रही हूँ और दिल्ली से ही खेलती रही हूँ, क्योंकि दिल्ली ने कोई सपोर्ट नहीं की तो शी वॉज फोर्स्ड टू पे फ्रॉम अदर स्टेट। आज वो खुद बोलते हैं कि मेरे साथ ये बेइंसाफी क्यों। एक तरफ तो आप कहते हैं कि जो मेडल जीत कर ला रहे हैं उनका स्वागत करते हैं। अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने कहा कि दिल्ली उनको यह भी सुविधा देगी, और उन्होंने मीटिंग में भी कहा इससे पहले मेरे साथ ऐसा अकेला नहीं हुआ, मेरे अलावा भी पहले भी प्लेयर्स के साथ ऐसा हो चुका है। और मैं देख रहा था कि आम आदमी पार्टी के एमएलए सौरभ भारद्वाज जी ने उन पे ये इल्जाम भी लगाए कि आप दिल्ली से नहीं खेलते। लेकिन मुझे इस बात का खेद है कि जब एक प्लेयर को अपनी सफाई देनी पड़े और ये बताना पड़े कि मैं दिल्ली से ही खेलती रही हूँ और ये मेरे सर्टिफिकेट हैं और ये देश के लिए गौरव
अब देश को गरमाई करने वाले प्लेयर्स को अगर अपना साबित करना पड़े, तो मुझे लगता है ये बड़े दुख और खेद की बात है। इसके ऊपर आम आदमी पार्टी को न केवल सफाई देनी चाहिए, बल्कि उस बेटी को अडॉप्ट करके जो उसका बनता हक है कॉमनवेल्थ प्लेयर के तौर पर उसको वो भी देना चाहिए।
जी मनजिंदर सिंह सिरसा जी, थैंक यू हमसे बात करने के लिए। सो दैट वाज बीजेपी's मनजिंदर सिंह सिरसा also demanding action and saying that things of course have come to a state when the Commonwealth Games medalist has to take to Twitter to prove that she's played for the national capital. So very shocking indeed, the kind of remarks that were made by the AAP MLA who tried to spark divide. We have BJP's Anila Singh also joining us. Ma'am, if I can get your response as well. Very shocking indeed, the things that have come to this state when the Commonwealth Games medalist has to prove that she's played for the national capital by putting out her documents on social media.
It is very unfortunate. And this shows the real face of Arvind Kejriwal's Aam Aadmi Party or the mindset of Arvind Kejriwal. He is the same chief minister who talks too much and does nothing, especially if I talk about the sports people living in his state. And under his leadership, we have seen that how the misuse of stadiums was done by his officers. Action was taken against those officers who use the stadium to give walk to the dog, instead allowing the sports people to play there. So if Divya is saying something, instead of honoring that, instead of recognizing that, Aam Aadmi Party is saying that she doesn't belong to Delhi, though she lives in Delhi. Today I might be residing anywhere in the country and I might be belonging to some other state, but if I'm living in that particular state for long enough, then definitely I'll expect some sort of recognition from that government, from the state where I live in. Instead, the leadership says, अरे आप तो हमारे स्टेट की हो ही नहीं, अब जबकि 20 साल से मैं उसी स्टेट में अगर रह रही हूँ, तो I really appreciate what Divya has done because she has shown the real face of Arvind Kejriwal. He's unanswerable, conducting PC and then telling that she doesn't belong to my state, Delhi state. I have to tell Mr. Kejriwal, she has brought honor to this country. She has brought pride to this country and she belongs to whole of the country. So if she says, I belong to Delhi, you should be proud of it, rather politicizing the matter.
Well, absolutely, Anila Singh. And she's even went on to put out her documents also and saying that I have won 17 goals for the national capital. So does the AAP government has no idea that the girl who has won a medal at the Commonwealth Games has even won 17 gold medals for the national capital by representing representing Delhi?
This proves that Aam Aadmi Party doesn't have any idea. He is busy in distributing freebies. फ्री का बिजली ले लो, फ्री का पानी ले लो, टैक्स पेयर्स का पैसा उड़ा दो, पर मुझको वोट देकर मुझको चुनकर ले आओ. This is what Arvind Kejriwal is doing. He is a harmful virus for this country.
All right. Well, Anila Singh, we'll leave it at that. So demand now only growing for the sacking of the AAP Neta who made these remarks. Very unfortunate indeed that the medalist had to take to Twitter to put out her documents to tell that she's been playing for the national capital and has even won 17 gold medals. And a quick roundup of all that's making news from the world of sports. Tommy Paul recorded one of his best wins of his career, beating second seed Carlos Alcaraz at the Montreal Masters. Alcaraz had led by a set and a break and even enjoyed a match point of his own, but Paul forced his way back into the match and captured the win with his 5th match point. Nick Kyrgios produced a superb comeback to beat world number 1 Daniil Medvedev and booked his place in the 3rd round of Montreal Masters. Kyrgios has now won 14 of his last 15 matches, backing up his maiden appearance in a Grand Slam final where he lost to Djokovic. UAE FA Champions League winner Real Madrid all set to take on UEFA European League winners in Frankfurt in the UAE Super Cup. The UEFA Super Cup will be played in Helsinki Olympic Stadium in Finland. Table tennis gold medal winner Srija Akula, who won the mixed doubles gold medal with Achanta Sharat Kamal in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, received a grand welcome at Hyderabad airport after she arrived from Birmingham. The Telangana sports minister, meanwhile, was also there to give a warm welcome to Srija Akula. Serena Williams wore her game face when she stepped out into the stadium for her first match since telling the world that she is ready to leave professional tennis. The second round match at the hard court came a day after she announced the countdown has begun on her playing career.
Big embarrassment for Aam Aadmi Party. Commonwealth Game bronze medalist now coming out with the proof that she has represented Delhi. Earlier this was Saurabh Bharadwaj who said that she has never represented Delhi. We'll be right back after a short break. Stay tuned.
Mr. Rahul Gandhi raised the issue of institutions. जगदीप धनखड़ देश के उपराष्ट्रपति पद पर सुशोभित हैं।
Couples have one question. Sir.
Varsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
CISF Jawan injuries who took those bullets is dead.
Well, here's the other news that we're tracking at this hour. Jagdeep Dhankar will take oath of office as the 14th Vice President of India today. President Draupadi Murmu will administer the oath. Dhankar had received 528 votes as the NDA candidate, defeating the opposition's Margaret Alva, who got only 182 votes in vice presidential election on August 6th. Hitting out at the freebies politics practiced in some states, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a veiled jibe at politicians offering various freebies and added that the nation needs leaders with clean intent and not greed.
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री के उम्मीदवार होंगे। देख रहे हैं एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Images from Gurugram depicting bouncers hitting customers outside of a bar for attempting to murder the bar owner and bouncers must be arrested. Brinda Adige offers her thoughts on what transpired. According to reports, Bounder assaulted patrons by punching and kicking them, even though women were also not spared. An altercation between patrons and a bouncer broke out outside the Casa Dansa club in Millennium City and it lasted for 15 minutes. She even alleged that the bouncers ganged up and sexually assaulted her. The incident took place on August 7th late at night, but no action has been taken as of yet.
And a roundup of news from across the globe. Production in a coal mine in the Luhansk region controlled by the Russian forces has been put in jeopardy after it suffered a loss of employees who had been conscripted to the front line. The coal mine was not damaged by the fighting, but its production was still undermined with the lack of modern equipment and conscription of its workers. The foreign minister Ahead of 75th Independence Day, BJP organized an event in Surat's Tapi River. The visuals that surfaced showed numerous river boats sailing in Tapi River. The entire fleet of boats was seen decked up in tricolour. To mark the 75th year of independence of India, the RSS leader Indiresh Kumar flagged off a Tiranga Yatra to commemorate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, saying that the Har Ghar Tiranga campaign is a moment of pride for all Indians.
ये है समय भारत की स्वतंत्रता का उत्सव मनाने का है। आपस के अंदर आरोप प्रत्यारोप का नहीं है, बांटने का नहीं है, भड़काने का नहीं है, लड़वाने का नहीं है। यह तो प्रेम से गले मिलकर एकजुट हिंदू, एकजुट भारत और एकजुट भारतीय एकजुट हिंदुस्तानी बनाने का है। आओ गले मिलें और भारत को महान बनाने की ओर तेज गति से आगे बढ़े।
Days ahead of Independence Day, Telangana police organized a 5-kilometer run to mark 75 years of independence. The police commissioner C.V. Anand was seen flagging off the Tiranga campaign. A Tiranga Yatra was taken out by BJP leaders in presence of UP cabinet ministers. The participants carried flags and slogans and chanted slogans of Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Gorakhpur Municipal Corporation flagged 350 vehicles with tricolour to commemorate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. The Municipal Commissioner of Gorakhpur and Mayor of Gorakhpur were seen present to mark the 75 years of independence. A very short break. Lots on the other side after mega unsparing Yogi action. Goon Neta Shrikant Tyagi to be produced in court today. Trouble mounts for Mamta's man after a 10-time no-show. CBI news to tighten on Anubrata Mondal.
Greek authorities were conducting a major search and rescue operation for dozens of people missing at the sea east of island of Karpathos after a boat reportedly carrying up to 80 migrants sank during the night. Those rescued said that the boat had set sail from the Antalya area on the southern Turkish coast and it had been heading to Italy when it ran into trouble during the night. But with Greek authorities increasing patrol in the Aegean Sea and facing repeated and persistent reports of deporting new arrivals to Turkey without allowing them to apply for asylum, many are now skirting the Greek islands and attempting to take the much longer, much more dangerous route directly to Italy. Agency report, Republic TV.
Couple sir, one question. Couple sir, one question sir.
Varsha Rao appearing at the ED office.
CISF Jawan injuries who took those bullets is dead.
Well, here's the other news that we're tracking at this hour. Jagdeep Dhankar will take oath of office as the 14th Vice President of India today. President Draupadi Murmu will administer the oath. Dhankar had received 528 votes as the NDA candidate, defeating the opposition's Margaret Alva, who got only 182 votes in vice presidential election on August 6th. Hitting out at the freebies politics practiced in some states, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a veiled jibe at politicians offering various freebies and added that the nation needs leaders with clean intent and not greed.
श्रीकांत के साथ 3 और लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है।
24 में प्रधानमंत्री के उम्मीदवार होंगे। देख रहे हैं एक और कंस्ट्रक्शन, पूरा का पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन धराशायी हो चुका है।
Images from Gurugram depicting bouncers hitting customers outside of a bar for attempting to murder the bar owner and bouncers must be arrested. Brinda Adige offers her thoughts on what transpired. According to reports, Bounder assaulted patrons by punching and kicking them, even though women were also not spared. An altercation between patrons and a bouncer broke out outside the Casa Dansa Club in Millennium City and it lasted for 15 minutes. She even alleged that the bouncers ganged up and sexually assaulted her. The incident took place on August 7th late at night, but no action has been taken as of yet.
And a roundup of news from across the globe. Production in a coal mine in the Luhansk region controlled by the Russian forces has... News in brief. Income Tax Department attached properties of assets worth 390 crore rupees from an industrialist in Maharashtra's Jalna district. This comes after IT conducted searches at multiple locations linked to an industrialist. A mega Tiranga rally took place in the national capital as part of celebrations of 75th year of independence. Several celebrations have unfolded in the country ahead of the auspicious occasion. Slipping into a very short break, don't go anywhere, stand by for an exclusive news break on the other side.
Reading allows us to become familiar with ourselves.
We don't read, we won't know what is knowledge.
I just find it very interesting to know people's lives, how they went through certain situations, how they dealt with things.
So wherever you want to go in life, if you read books along those lines, then that would really help you in growing.
Reading could mean a million different things to every individual. What does it mean to you? Visit readindia.info to find out more.
Good evening and welcome, viewers. The Supreme Court has given Nupur Sharma protection, interim relief, and clubbed all the 10-odd FIRs against her. And that's great because Nupur Sharma deserves equality before the law. She can't be left to fend with death threats and murderous calls and denied the protection that she deserves as a citizen of India under the law. Yes, Nupur Sharma deserves complete equality before the law. And so do those who are still even today getting threatened, attacked for supporting Nupur. If they support Nupur's views and that breaks the law, there is a legal process to deal with it. Then why in Karjat has 23-year-old Sunny Pawar been attacked with swords and slashed by a murderous group because he backed Nupur? Has Nupur Sharma become an excuse to unleash any form of violence in this country? Is there any doubt that Nupur Sharma has become an alibi to kill, to attack, and Nupur Sharma has become an alibi to violate every single aspect of the law? Is there any doubt? Is there any doubt that Nupur has over the last few weeks become an opportunity to threaten and to randomly stab and randomly bleed and even behead in different incidents across the country? What's going on? And honestly, viewers, haven't you asked, for how long will this continue? I know you've asked yourself that question. For how long will this random violence continue? Why should it continue? And that is why today's Supreme Court protection for Nupur, the Supreme Court interim protection, interim relief for Nupur Sharma should be a turning point. Enough violence.
मेरे साथ एक ऑफिसर था, मैंने उससे पूछा क्या मतलब है वॉर मेमोरियल में खाली पत्थर लगाना। उसने बोला कि सर ये वादा है फौज का, ये वादा है इंडियन आर्मी का कि और कितने भी नाम इस पत्थर पे लिख दिए जाएं, ये तिरंगा ऐसे ही लहराता रहेगा।
Good morning and welcome. You're watching Live and Breaking on Republic TV. I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. A look at the top headlines this hour. All eyes are on Jagdeep Dhankar as he takes oath as the 14th Vice President of the country. CWG hero bags glory of India at the world stage, but Aam Aadmi Party MLA seeks proof, tries to spark a divide. Furor over the Aam Aadmi Party MLA's remark on the CWG hero. Demand for sacking grows louder after Republic TV's news break. After the Prime Minister scathing black magic jibe, Rahul Gandhi is in defensive mode now, raises unemployment and inflation. Five terrorists are wiped out, 30 kgs of IEDs recovered, full forces in all-out mission now. And after mega unsparing Yogi action, Gu Neta Tyagi is to be produced in court today. Well, in fact, after Kapil Sibal and Dushyant, now Prashant Bhushan has attacked the top court, saying that judges effectively issue orders thinking about post-retirement benefits. So that's a scathing attack that's coming in from Prashant Bhushan. Prashant Bhushan made these remarks at a webinar. We are given to understand now there have been remarks like this one that have been coming forth. Another attack on the judges over there. Let's listen into what actually Prashant Bhushan said.
On the Supreme Court's recent rollback of civil liberties, or rather its assault on civil liberties, one needs to understand that the Supreme Court is charged with a very, very important responsibility to protect fundamental rights, human rights of the citizens, as well as non-citizens who are in India, such as Rohingya refugees, etc. In the recent years, since the Narendra Modi government has come to power, we have been seeing a sort of rampant trampling of rights of people. There is, of course, a full-blooded assault on minorities in this country. There are lynch mobs out on the streets. There are lynch mobs on the social media. Laws are being made to somehow reduce them to second-class citizens. All kinds of things are being done. There are fake encounters being done of Muslims. There are houses of Muslims being demolished just because they are protesting. But apart from that, we have been seeing an assault on the civil liberties of any dissenter, anybody who stands up and speaks out against this government, especially journalists or activists, etc. A very large number of our activists and journalists are in jail. Some of our finest human rights activists have been arrested in the Bhima Koregaon case. Many of them were also arrested in the Delhi riots case. Many others are charged with sedition, like Siddiq Kappan, etc., or charged under UAPA and are being kept in prison for years altogether and are being denied bail. So in such a situation, the role of the Supreme Court and the High Courts, the higher judiciary in India, becomes even greater because it is really their responsibility and their power. It is their power, their duty, their responsibility to protect the rights of people whose rights are being trampled. Justice Arun Mishra, who was another infamous judge who immediately or soon after retirement was made the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, was allowed to retain his official bungalow for 9 months, totally in violation of the rules, and thereafter made the chairman of the Human Rights Commission. Now, Justice Khanwilkar, who has delivered these other 3 judgments, including Zakia Jafri, Himanshu Kumar, PMLA, and he had delivered the Batali judgment. He's just retired. We don't know what post he will be given. There are many posts which are vacant. The chairmanship of the Law Commission, the Lokpal's post is also vacant. Let us see what post he is given. But we have seen from experience that these kind of judges who always side with the government, especially in judgments before their retirement, are usually given some post-retirement jobs. Just like Justice Ranjan Gogoi, the Chief Justice, who had delivered that Ayodhya judgment, who also delivered that Rafael judgment just before retirement, and soon after retirement he was made a member of the Raj Sabha. There are a few good judgments, but those judgments kind of stand out as exceptions. And we are seeing that in general, the Supreme Court has, by and large, abdicated its responsibility to protect the human rights and fundamental rights of citizens, and indeed gone further in some cases to even assault the civil liberties of the citizens. And as I said, one of the reasons for this is this lure of post-retirement jobs, but there are all kinds of reasons why the Supreme Court is behaving in the way that it is. We are seeing that the independence of the Supreme Court is today seriously under question. Seriously under question. Recently, Mr. Sibal said that he had lost faith in the Supreme Court, and that's the feeling of a large number of citizens in this country. But I still feel that we should not completely lose hope in the Supreme Court. There are still a large number of honest and upright judges, and we need to give them strength. And the way to give them strength is that when they do something which is right, which we see as being correct and by way of protecting civil liberties and human rights, etc., we should applaud them. And when they do something wrong, we should criticize them and criticize them strongly. That way, the good judges who want to stand up but who may be feeling weak right now or isolated right now will get the strength and the courage to stand up. And those who are kind of becoming or have become virtually the rubber stamps of the government, they will be deterred from behaving in the way in which they have been behaving.
Mr. Nalin Kohli from the BJP on the phone line with me. Mr. Kohli, good morning. Mr. Kohli, how do you see these remarks that are coming in from Prashant Bhushan? He made them at a webinar that he attended.
As a practicing advocate, and Mr. Prashant Bhushan himself is in that sense a colleague at the bar, we all have the collective responsibility of ensuring that we have measured words when we speak about the highest judicial institution, the highest constitutional court, the Honorable Supreme Court, or even the high courts and other courts, because they are involved in the dispensation of justice on which millions of people and their hopes on a daily basis are hinged. Now, certainly one can argue that under Article 19, Mr. Bhushan or anyone else has a freedom of speech and expression. But this tendency that is happening by a set of advocates to run down the institution, and especially the Supreme Court and its judges, whenever they feel a judgment hasn't gone to their liking, is something that has to be criticized in the harshest possible manner. Because this is a trend. It is not a one-off incident. It has happened by trying to politicize judges. It has happened repeatedly in judgment after judgment in which they had their own angles. Every judgment finally will go in favor of somebody and against somebody. One can have a point of view quite correctly that I don't agree with the judgment for these reasons. But to run down and make a genuine statement against 30 plus judges who slog day and night in the Supreme Court, just because you are unhappy with a judgment, is not the correct approach. And certainly it calls for a counter-criticism. The second part, there is a set of people whose entire raison d'etre or their desire is to create an angularity on a global forum as if India and Indian democracy is in threat. There are elections, they are free elections. Globally, it is seen that these are free elections. Now, this set of people are opposed to Narendra Modi and the BJP. In a democracy, they are entitled to be against any political party. They are entitled to have a counter viewpoint to the BJP. But to run down everything in India just because a person or a set of people are unhappy with the current dispensation is also something that cannot be tolerated in that sense, and or will call for a counter-criticism. And here we have an organization in the United States that is known to have a positioning which is anti-India, that is known to have a communal orientation, to use its platform and then give them a handle to beat India's global image for their own considerations and for the political considerations of the person who does so, certainly is not correct, and it harms Indian democracy. And we all have a collective responsibility and obligation to strengthen our democratic tradition rather than weaken them, and particularly with these kinds of agendas.
All right, Mr. Kohli, appreciate your speaking to us on Republic TV. Thank you for joining us. I think we've also got Mr. R.P. Singh on the phone line with us. Mr. R.P. Singh, good morning. What do you make of these comments that have come in from Mr. Bhushan? He made them at, I think, a webinar where he participated?
Well, Mr. Bhushan and likes of Mr. Bhushan probably don't believe in democratic processes and the institutions. They more believe in the anarchism. And a party also which was leader categorically stated that I'm an anarchist. Mr. Bhushan and Mr. Kapil Sibal both have a track record of criticizing the judges and the judgment out of my way or highway. If it's judgment suiting to me or as per my will is good, otherwise we will criticize the judgment both. And in that process, they criticize the government also. Actually, they want to hit the government. Actually, they want to hit the Prime Minister Modi, and they are used judiciary and Supreme Court judges as tool to hit the government. But in this process, they also hit the country. The image of the India is damaged or is hampered worldwide, and especially when they talk about the judiciary. I accept Mr. Kohli's point of view that they have all the right to bring out the objectives. But 20 Supreme Court to the same the Supreme Court judiciary system has collapsed and it's not delivering. Rather, Mr. Prashant Bhushan and Mr. Kapil Sibal should see into their track record of losing